Right, this is better. So I understand that we have policies in place. NDPC has been doing a lot, throwing out trainings, awareness, and doing a lot to incorporate people, make them understand how they can use their data. And with regards to AI, now, do you think that these policies are aligned with our human rights and values? And how do you think the government, what role do you think the government can play in making these policies suit us as Africans?
All right. Thank you. So, if you may recall earlier on, I spoke about data subject rights. All right. So, in the Constitution now, section 37, it says that a citizen has a right to privacy, um, which was not well defined. That's why we now have the Nigeria Data Protection Act, which now talks about privacy. So, our act mainly is focused on the data subjects, that is the rights of a Nigerian citizen to privacy, which is very important when it comes to artificial intelligence. Now, when talking about policy, of recent, the Minister of Communications, Dr. Bosu Tijani, there was this draft National AI Strategy document, which they are working on to at least have like a guideline on the use of AI, ethical use of AI. That's how you say ethical use of AI in Nigeria. And of course, the level of Africa, we have the African Union policy document on AI. And what they were trying to do over the course of, I think, years, is to have like an harmonized policy for AI. Um, if you may recall earlier on where the keynote speaker, Iboko, was speaking, she mentioned the use of GDPR. So what GDPR does is that it's a kind of law that cuts across the EU. I know the EU is just one; it's not just one country; it's a list of countries. So that is, they have this harmonized voice when it comes to AI. Um, at the G20 meeting recently, they were talking about AI, and one thing they said was that no African data, no AI, because we already know that there's a problem with artificial intelligence in Africa. Most of these models are not being trained by data in Africa. It's foreign data. So a good example is when I did my PhD and I wanted to submit, they asked me to feed my research into Turnitin. I fed it into Turnitin. Turnitin is using artificial intelligence to mark maybe you plagiarize, etc., etc. But there was a problem. The problem was that there's a way we speak in Africa. Even in Nigeria, there's a speak where Igbo we speak, Hausa we speak, Yoruba we speak, we will see that kind of accent. And the way you use English, we have British English, we have American English, we have Nigeria English, we have Pidgin English. It's still the same English as you are still speaking. For example, if I say I'm coming, it's Yoruba English, it means that Mumbo. I just translated it directly to English. I discovered that the Tony's were just speaking terms that were common, that were registers in my discipline. We shouldn't be so. Why is that a problem? That's a problem because we have not had people develop something that is similar to Tonity in Africa for the educational sector. So up to now, the educational sector is depending on Tonity. And not forget that Tonity is comparing our research document with foreign research documents. Because in Africa, how many of our research papers are fed onto AI? Because that's why if you go to university, you just see your research articles, you just see them pile up in the library. So that's why we are trying as much as possible to harmonize this policy, like to speak with one voice. That's why I said no African AI, no data. That's no data, no African AI. That's why I said earlier on that who are the people that feed this data into AI? So, for example, if we take a document now and put it in AI to translate to French, and you put that document for AI to translate to Hausa, AI will perfectly translate it to French with like maybe 90% accuracy. If you ask it to translate to Hausa, you're going to have a problem because it's not going to translate it perfectly. So it means that there's this issue of training AI. And what thing we've done at the commission is that we now have what we call data protection clubs in universities. It's very strategic. Because who are the people building these models? Who are the people meant to build these models? It's the people in university. And after they leave university, they go into the workforce. So what are we doing is to have this club to encourage them, to teach them about data privacy, and to encourage them that when you are building these systems, ensure that you build privacy by default into the system. Ensure that when you are building the system, the rights of the data subjects, which translate to the human rights, is being respected. When it's being built into that, I mentioned opt-in and opt-out earlier on. That is if you go online and they ask for your consent, you have to tick a box. It means that you have signed in. Just like you subscribe and unsubscribe. It means after a while, if you're not interested, you also go back there and do what? And unsubscribe. So what we are doing at the commission is to raise people's consciousness that as data subjects, we are humans. And because we are humans, we have a right to privacy. And that right to privacy needs to be protected. Now, if I may say, it's not just about policy protecting your privacy. No, we as individuals, we also have a lot to do. Like the other pioneers spoke that, who are the governments? We are the governments. Who are the Nigerians? We are the Nigerians. We also go a long way to be ensured, to be conscious that in our human interaction with artificial intelligence, we are always very careful. That at the back of our mind, we build what? The conscious use of privacy. It's not everything you take like you put into AI. You have a right, but protecting that right starts from you as an individual. If you don't protect your rights first, the government will not protect that rights. So the reason why we focus on data subjects because that we need data subjects to start holding organizations, to start holding data controllers accountable. A perfect example is, there's a time UBA locked my account because, I don't know, they said my account was on regular, money came, dash. And funniest thing was that was the only account I had money. And I was very hungry that day, I'm not hitting. So I went to UBA. They were speaking English. I had to finish speaking. And I said, look here, I have a right. And that right includes that you have a right to keep my money, to ensure that maybe there's a fraud or something. But I also have access to that money. So what you would do for me is that you need to lift embargo of that money. Let me have access to like maybe 2% of that money. Let me withdraw that money. Then once I withdraw that, I can do what I want to do with that money and come back to sort it out. Immediately I said that, she said, okay. If I don't know my rights, that's how they will lock my account. I will stay hungry. And if I'm hungry, how will I think? And how will I work? So what I'm saying is that we as citizens, we need to be conscious of this use of artificial intelligence, be conscious of the use of your privacy. And what are we asking? Also question. People should not just come and take your data and you're giving them the data. You're not asking them what they want to use data for. An app is asking you to upload your picture. Have you asked them have you tried to read the policy of the app while you're uploading your picture? For example, when people ask me and I go in and they ask me for my maiden name, I begin to wonder, what has my maiden name got to do? They won't ask my mother's maiden name. Of what use is that? So, as citizens, as data subjects, we ourselves have a lot of work to do. So this training of AI, it's not just about someone sitting down there and training AI. It's a collective effort of everybody. That's why I'm talking about harmonization of all this policy. So that we can do what? We can speak with one voice. Artificial intelligence has come to stay. And there's nothing anybody, you cannot run away from artificial intelligence. Like if you use Google Map, you are using artificial intelligence. I went to a bathroom recently. I saw the paper towel dispenser. I was trying to put it in. It was pulling back. I was wondering what is happening. And I stepped back as a researcher that I am now. And I stepped back with my glasses and I looked very well. And I saw it had a sensor. I needed to do like this. That may not be a complicated artificial intelligence, but it's amazing technology. It's using something. You know, someone can put a camera there and I'm waving. The person is like the way you use your laptop. That's why we are creating that your laptop's camcorder must be covered. Because someone is there looking at you online, and you know someone is looking at you online. So as Africans, as Nigerians, we also need to raise our consciousness about the issue of data privacy. In as much as the government is also trying to implement policy, trying to see what we can do to encourage that you have a safe and trusted digital economy, we as citizens also have a right, also have that duty, due diligence, to ensure that we protect our privacy and to ensure that when things are not right, you start to what? Start to question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tolu, for that. So, my sincere apology to Dr. Shifra Wairima. I hope I did not murder your name. Okay, so please, in less than 5 minutes, we don't have enough time. Is she still on? In less than 5 minutes. Is she still with us? Are you still with us? Dr. Shifra? She's still online. She's not online. Oh. Okay. So okay. We apologize for that. We have international speakers from Kenya, and we were supposed to introduce her earlier. I apologize for skipping that part. I didn't know she was already online. And I think we're having, is it network troubles? Lights troubles, okay. So, the question I was supposed to throw to her, I'm going to throw this question to Dr. Tolu, but Dr. Tolu, please, in 2 minutes. Please, in 2 minutes. Now, we talk about the data sovereignty, and we have partnerships, across nations on how we use data and AI. Now, the question here is, how can we leverage these partnerships to ensure that we are secure when using this AI?
So the first thing I would like to say, which is very tied to privacy, is accountability. There's what they call accountability, fairness, and transparency. When you're talking about data governance, and you're talking about collaboration, that means you're talking about cross-border data transfer. When we talk about cloud, it means that your data is leaving your country and also going outside. And one of our pillars at NDPC is collaboration and cooperation. Like the Africans say, a tree cannot make a forest. That's not how you're not going to collaborate and work with other people. So the first thing we need to do is, most of this collaboration needs to have like a memorandum of MOU, memorandum of understanding. There's something called data processing agreements. You need to have data processing agreements to let us know that all those data sovereignty, all those data you are processing that is being transferred, is it well secured? That's at the place of ensuring that these countries you have this collaboration with, do they have a data protection authority? If they don't have a data protection authority, is there adequacy decision in place to ensure that data you are transferring there is safe? And that is why the issue of terms coming, technical and organization measures. There have been, when we talk about technical and organization measures, we talk about encryption, anonymization, the identification. They will also talk about masking. A good example is masking, is that if you take your card, your ATM card, you will see that's a masking. They will write some few numbers and mask the other number, so they don't identify you. So in as much as we talk about data sovereignty, we have to, and collaboration and cooperation, we have to have, like I said, MOU, data processing agreements, ensure that whatever the data is domiciled, that we have data protection authorities. And of course, the first question, the most important thing is that, what are the laws we have in Nigeria that govern this data sovereignty? Do you have guidelines on data sovereignty in Nigeria? I'd like to tell you that it's part of what the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, alongside other key agencies, are working on, because with the issue of this digital economy, artificial intelligence, the issue of data sovereignty is also very, very key. That's why we talked about the issue of localization, and I've heard from the room now that the question is that, are we ready to locally host our data? And that is where Galaxy Backbone comes into the picture. And I'm sure they're trying their best their possible best to ensure that they put necessary infrastructure in place. Rome was not built on a day. We start from somewhere, then over the time, we're able to have food, data sovereignty. Thank you. Two
Thank you
minutes.
very much. Okay, she did try. Clap for her now. She tried to keep to time. Don't clap now. He will use 5 minutes. Okay, so Dr. Nasir, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Okay. So now you already told us about, the use of AI and everything around it. Now, we understand that nobody will produce a tool and completely alienate themselves from how that tool is being managed, right? At least we have some programmers here and they will attest to the fact that you always leave either a backdoor or something that allows you, because you have to do repairs, you have to do upgrades and all that. Now, the defensive mechanisms that we have as regards to cybersecurity, are they adequate in the use of AI?
Are we referring to local solutions that we have already, or
Do we have enough local solutions? And the international solutions we are using, are they adequate for us as Africans?
it's a very good question that you asked me. That whether the current solutions that we have, both local and foreign, are they adequate? Partially, yes. Because when it comes to cybersecurity, there are lots and lots of things that come into play. We have the technology, we have the process, and we have the people that use it. And if one of these three pillars within the ecosystem is not optimal, then the solutions will not work. So a lot of the foreign solutions that we have, yes, they're good. I think they're generally good. But I'll give you a typical scenario. There was a virus that was built. It was specifically built for certain languages. So imagine when the virus got out of hand, when the virus gets out of hand, it can only stay within that local environment that speak that language that it was built for. So what I'm saying is, imagine having local solutions that are contextual to us, like in terms of cybersecurity. That means we would have a more robust solutions because they'll be more effective because they are built to our specific context. I'll give you a quick reference. Yesterday, I was looking for, or day before yesterday, I was doing a project. I needed a voiceover, like a voice background voice. And I said, okay, fine. I'll get an artist in somewhere in the north to do my background song. And before that person could get back to me, I just went online and used AI, and I was able to generate a beautiful song with beautiful Hausa lyrics. But when I listened to the lyrics, it was a Chinese woman struggling to speak Hausa. So the question is, what we have is not, because they didn't build it with our context, they didn't build it with our local accent. So it's a Chinese woman struggling to sing Hausa in a Chinese accent, in a Chinese accent, trying to sing Hausa. So it was a good attempt, and then the beats were off because they sounded Indian. So somehow someone told AI that Hausa music and AI and Indian, they are similar. Yes, there are similarities. Why? Because in the 70s, 80s, a lot of us grew up watching Indian films. So there is that context. But when you talk about original Hausa rhythm, it's nothing to do with Indian. We have our own rhythm. But because of the way the AIs were trained and everything else, just assume that, okay, all these Kannywood films, all this Kannywood music, these are the contemporary Hausa music. And they use it to train their data. And then you have this Chinese woman singing Hausa in a funny, funny Hausa accent. So that just to give you a real context. And the same happens not just within cybersecurity, but within the music multimedia space. But the same thing happens with AI. The same thing happens with cybersecurity. When you try to build a solution for another country and then you bring it to Nigeria, it might work. It might work perfectly. But what if the font used in the language is Hausa? Like the font in it could actually it could actually distort the way maybe the antivirus works, for example. I'm just saying. So we need to start thinking locally. Foreign solutions are good. They give us temporary like cover and everything else. But the truth is, another dimension to it is a lot of these solutions are costly. especially with the current dollar rate? Are we going to keep giving them all our monies, our hard-earned monies? A solution to this is to leverage on this open source solutions. There are a lot of them out there. So the challenge to the local companies here is, how can we start using these open source solutions, those that have open license, to customize it so that it can solve our local cybersecurity problems? And not just developing the apps, we need people to patronize this. If you have a small business, you should be able to buy some of these locally made solutions, because that's the only way it can grow. We can keep thinking about building local solutions. These young kids would build the solutions, but we never told them nobody will buy it, because we're not encouraging them. We as in businesses, you as an individual, we need to have locally made antivirus softwares. I'm sure there are lots of them. I've not seen any in recent times. Sorry, I've seen one or two. One of my colleagues have built, but it's not enough. They're only operating within Abuja. We need someone in Kano doing the same thing. We need someone in Lagos doing the same thing. And we need to give them these opportunities. So there are lots and lots of opportunities out there for us to build these local solutions. And we can always leverage on the foreign ones, but let's not take it that it will take us to the finish or the promised land. Let's also use open source solutions, customize it, and make it ours in terms of context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. One thing I like to do as an educator is to use the simplest of English. I like simple common language. Or what's it called again? LCM. I like to make it as simple as possible. So before I throw to the audience, the opportunity to ask your questions, I think everything they've been trying to let us know is that AI is good. AI also has its challenges. You should be careful of the type of data you throw out there. We women that like to use AI to do our pictures so that we can look like we are living in the United States of Abuja, and we do not read the terms and conditions for which we actually upload our pictures. They are trying to warn you that you're feeding your data to AI. And AI is actually using your data to generate a lot of things, so that tomorrow you don't see yourself. It's your face, because you gave AI your face. You see your face, and then your face is stealing from one place. Now you'll be wondering how it got there. Somebody can actually make use of AI to do malicious, take malicious risk with your face. And they don't even really need to know that you're the one that they want to do this thing. All they have to do is ask AI, give AI some prompts like use a black figure with chocolate, 5 seats, 6 feet tall, very round cheeks and all that. And AI will just deliver your pictures to them. And you are sitting in your house and you're seeing a different thing, going on somewhere, and you will not understand how it came about. So you have to be very careful how you put out your data there. And also, Dr. Nasir has been trying to let us know that it's very good for us to use these international solutions, but we as Africans, we need to come up with our own solutions. We can't continue to rely on their solutions, because if we rely on their solutions, it means they are controlling how we use these solutions. I actually asked Dr. Shola earlier, as an engineer, you understand that we have these raw materials. Why is it that our young people are not coming out to build these things? Because we actually have all the raw materials needed. We export them. We give it out to them to use for us, and then deliver finished products for us that are not even in line with what we really need. If you look at the phones, for instance, I think most of what we use the phone for is calls, and then to sit down on social media and consume contents that others have created. A lot of us don't even know that there are other uses to your phone, not just your phone, other devices that you use. So as much as possible, we need to build solutions that will cater to the African man's need, okay? That will cater to our own need without, relying completely. We are not saying that their technologies are not working for us. They are working, but we also need our own solutions that will cater to our own needs. So please, in a few minutes, If you have questions for us, I think now is the right time to ask your questions. I had questions in the previous session and then nobody gave me the opportunity. So let me not do the same thing. Okay, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very rich conversation. Okay, so you spoke about harmonized policy, across different agencies. So do we have, for Nigeria, do we have like an harmonized data? We have different platforms asking you, put your NIN, put your BVN, and then you put that, and then you go to another platform. They still request for that same data. So do we have like a solution like right now in Nigeria that these products can just leverage on, right? And say, okay, if users are going to use this particular data, right, please connect to this kind of API. And then you fetch BVN, get all their full names, get their birth name, and all of that. I don't know if we're working on that. I need clarification because if this harmonization of data is there, then we can talk about protecting the data. Then we'll talk about localizing this data here in Nigeria. Thank you.
I think Dr. Tolu should answer that.
So that's a very interesting question. I will keep getting that question every time. So for now, all data in silos. That's why if you go to go and renew your driver license, they ask you the same question. You go to immigration, they ask you the question. NIMSI asks you the same question. So all is supposed to be domicile and NIMSI because they have all major personal data. So what the minister is doing, President, is to have a technical committee on national data exchange. So we are trying to come up with a framework whereby we can harmonize all data so that if you actually request for something, maybe from immigration, all they need to do is just contact NIMSI and draw up that data. So for now, no, but we are working to have like an harmonized policy for data. Thank you.
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment than a question, and is to tie the previous panel and the current one together. The previous one centers around operations of AI, and this is about security of AI. For me, my own opinion, it's just like internet. Before you can even talk of AI, we'll need to talk about internet access. Without internet access, there is basically more often than not no AI, except because you cannot use your phone without the internet. It's usually not a thing now. So, number one, internet in many countries is already a human rights thing. So it's a fundamental human right for internet access in many countries, and Nigeria should join this band if we want to have participation, international participation in AI. And then the second thing is also AI will also become an human right issue, fundamental human right, because AI will be so ubiquitous that people will necessarily need to have access to it. We were talking about education of even from the young ones on AI. It's all about access. So we'll need to look at it from both the legal and diplomacy part of it. So the legal part of it is that we'll make internet and AI a fundamental human right for all Nigerians. And then it will be then you are forcing both the public sector and the private sector to actually be intentional about it. Then the other aspect is diplomacy. Diplomacy is about interaction with other nations, other businesses in other climes. So diplomacy is even concerning data protection regulations, data protection laws. It's all about diplomacy. Nigeria businesses in other countries, businesses, foreign businesses in Nigeria, everything all has to work around diplomacy. and other laws and regulations and other things, and continuous interaction with different governments, Nigerian government with other governments. So I think looking at it from, and I think the other lady from NDPC has already mentioned something regarding to that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. My question is centers on the issue of for some of our students, of our kids, that how do we track them? Some of our students in the schools, some of them they go into some website that you as fathers, you want to track them so that they will not be deceived. That's number one. Number two, regarding the issue of Windows 10 and 11 on the issue of cyber security. I want you to explain more on that. So how can we secure our system? Especially for me personally, I usually, when I see any mail, I respond to mail than WhatsApp message. So how can we be able to differentiate between these are hackers, these are not genuine? I mean, these are not hackers. Some of those mail messages.
So you asked a very good question around how can you distinguish between a real email and a fraudulent one. Before the hype of AI, it was really easy to tell. Once you see that maybe misspelling, you could tell. But right now, it's a bit more sophisticated in the sense that they can easily do a proofread and come up with a very nice, brilliant email. And then there's another thing they do these days is like the spelling of Microsoft. They can create a false domain and then add an R to it. So when you have an R and then you have M, it's not so, you can't really tell that there's that are there because of the way the curves of the N and the R and the M. So it's very, 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 very tricky. You have to be on the watch for. So what I'm saying effectively is whenever you see an email, first of all, what is it asking you to? What is it asking you for, rather? What is asking you, is it urgent? Because typically the hackers tell you that you have 5 minutes or you have 74 hours before your Apple or whatever gets. So when you see that, you don't ask question, why are they putting you on the spot? That's one of the trends that you look out for. Even when they call you via voice, they want you to take an action now. They say, oh yeah, from the bank. Okay, what do you want? You are fine, I'll come to the bank myself. Don't engage them, because the truth is, once you engage them, you don't know when they will attract you. So the thing is, whenever you hear something or you see something that's too good to be true, reply this email and claim your 50,000 naira from the federal government. Chairman. What does it cost you to ask someone that knows someone that works in that agency and say, okay, are they really giving out free stuff? You saw an email and you don't understand it. Just ask questions. You don't need to know everything. Just ask questions. And go to their website. If there's, okay, you win or whatever federal government initiative is giving free money, go to their website and see, are they giving out free money? Because the truth is, sometimes we human beings, we like our woof. They say, okay, click here and with 100K. You're like, let me quickly give them my BV and everything. Pop, 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 pop. And trust me, as you're entering that send button, alerts, you are getting it. That's how fast it is. And the sad reality is, it's very difficult for the government to track down that transaction. Why? Because it's just 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira. Recently, I was in the UK to give a talk at a conference organized by the Cybersecurity Center there. So I was having a conversation with someone that heads their cybersecurity center. I said, look, I noticed that until certain money gets to a certain threshold, you may not really get the agencies to respond. And I said, I feel it's not fair. He says, well, even in the UK, we have a similar thing. I said, how do you mean? He says, well, okay, £100 gets zapped into someone's account. They'll probably use £10,000 to look for your £100. So they'll just probably put it in the record and say, okay, £10,000, put your name, records, and just leave it there. So you have to start thinking that these things are a lot more complicated until they have a buildup of cases or they see maybe a certain trend. It's really an overkill. Okay, for example, someone comes to your house and takes your maybe akara. You have one akara, you kept it, you're about to eat, and then you look away and someone took it. Do you think it's worth calling your friend that is in the police, calling your friend that is in various agencies to come and help you look for that akara? It's you have to look at it from the efficiency side of things. So it's easier to protect your own assets, your own goods, than to rely on a secondary option of maybe the government intervening, because you are the government in this case. You have to protect your own critical assets. You have to protect everything else before you can start jumping on, oh, the government is this, government is that. No. You are the government. You have to take responsibility for your own things. And you may not really need to have all the knowledge. You can seek for the knowledge. And we're talking about AI. You can always ask AI, okay, AI, I'm keeping this pen here. How can I protect it? And then AI will give you, okay, there are several strategies that can use, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And then you take the one that makes sense to you, that you can apply, and then apply it. So that's it. Thank you. Yes, please. Let me ask you a question too. A question with a question. Have you ever sat down in front of an AI and asked it that same question to build you an app? You should try it. But yes, I think they are. And the reason why I'm telling you this is not to make jest of us. I'm just saying that some of these solutions, we might just be able to build it. That's why I threw you that question, just to give you that challenge that when you go back home, try and do a bit of search, because there are a lot of solutions out there that can actually build codes for you with no effort. You don't need to have any technical knowledge. Just ask it, hey, AI, I need you to build a solution so that I can help track what my child is doing. My child is using Android. Simple. And then see what comes up. It might work 50%, it might work 100%. One way to find out. I mean, there are a lot of proprietary solutions out there that you can build. I cannot really specifically direct you to one, but I'm just saying that 1, you can search for it on the stores. If you don't find something that works for you, 2, you can try to see if you can build your own. You might say, oh, I don't have the technical knowledge. No, you do. Just go on the AI solutions out there and ask it, I need a solution. I don't have any code knowledge. Just build me a solution that works and see if it works. If it works for you, then now you could even decide to sell it. Who knows? I'm just challenging you back as well. Thank you. Yes, please.
So let me add something. So to answer your question, so there's this app on Google. It's called Family Link. So what Family Link? Family Link. So what it does is that, for example, I'm a parent. Before I can open, so the legal age in Nigeria is 18. Until there, you're still a child. So for that Family Link, every email I open for my daughter is linked to my email. So on that Family Link, I can actually control what she does on her tab until she's 18. I can see the web she has browsed. If you take, say, because you're using one drive, the same drive, so if you take a picture, the picture automatically loads on my own gallery. So if you go to that app, you can actually see our browser history. Every game she downloads, you can see it. That is before she becomes an adult, because you cannot monitor your adult child history. He or she has the right to privacy. In short, abroad it's 13 years. When they are 13 years, they tell you they have the right to privacy. So in Nigeria, it's still 18. So you can go for that because Google is trying very much to ensure data privacy, unless they will get sued. So you can go to your app store and download that Family Link. Thank you. So it's so your family. So the family, you have a Gmail account. So once you have a Gmail account, your Gmail account cut across all Google apps. So that Family Link is a Google app. Yes.
Good morning. Okay. This session was much anticipated by me. My name is Ebube Asogwa. I'm a medical microbiologist as well as a healthcare data analyst. So I have a suggestion as well as a question. I think when it comes to cybersecurity, it's more of a behavioral problem as well as a technical issue. Because while we build systems that curb cybersecurity, while we build the security system, we should also build the system of fear also. Better laws should be enacted So before someone think of breaching data or data monopoly, should think of the consequences of it. So secondly, my question, I and my team, we are working on something, a telemedicine project for rural communities in Nigeria to curb maternal and child death in Nigeria. And one of the features of it is an electronic medical recording. Medical history will be shared from one location to another. So as regards this, I really want to know how much, as a professional, data professional, how much of data can we collect from these patients, because we need their information. And for electronic medical recording to work, data needs to be shared. So how much of data can we collect from our patients? Secondly, as regards cybersecurity and healthcare, what really is cyber hygiene when it comes to healthcare? Thank you.
All right, so it's a two-way question, dual question. So I will answer my own part, and Doc will answer his own part. So yes, earlier on I mentioned sensitive personal data. So health records falls under sensitive personal data that can be used to discriminate against individuals. Now you talk about how much data you can collect. So we have the principle of data minimization. That is, only collect necessary data. So now, if you are collecting for health record, collect data that is necessary for that health record. For example, now, if you are collecting data that has to do maybe with maybe like tuberculosis, you don't need to maybe collect their, you can collect their state of origin to be able to maybe demographic something, but just like asking them maybe their Facebook handle or their social media handle. So the thing is that if you are collecting that data, you need to actually sit down and ask your question, ask yourself. So there's something you need to do. It's called DPIA, Data Privacy Impact Assessment. We recommend it when you are building a new technology. And the reason why you need to do a DPIA is to ensure that the technology, the app or the system you are developing does not pose high risk to data subjects. That is, the people you are trying to protect with that app, that app does not pose a risk to them. It's under when you are doing that DPIA that issue of data minimization will come up. So you are going to have a list of data that you feel. You are going to have like a large data set. Then you start to sieve the data and see that which data do we need to collect? Which data can we do without? So you speak to the principle of data minimization and data privacy impact assessments. And also ensure that this app you are developing has privacy by default. You need to safeguard those data. Like I said, it's sensitive personal data. It's data that, if be exposed, can cause discrimination against the data subject. Doc.
So still on the issue of applications that monitor children, the truth is, as you're smart by 10%, your kids are smart by 20, 30, 40%. Why? What do I mean by that is, I saw a real life scenario where I was sitting with my colleagues in the IT team, and then they were telling me, oh, these kids find a way to bypass our app so they can go access the internet without being monitored. And I was like, okay, we have a problem. Let me give you a simple example of what I do in my own home. When we hire a new house help, we bring her to where we have the CCTVs. We say, look, we are monitoring, we are watching. And there was a time we hired a new house help. There were two. They were walking in the kitchen. And one of them was trying to do something. Then the other one tapped her on the shoulder and said, look. And we saw them. So it was funny. Me and my wife, we laughed over it. But the truth is, you always need to educate the kids. Don't do this, don't do that. Even when you install the apps, because they always find a way around. They are digital natives, it's their playground, but you have to educate them around what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And the same applies for our employees, those in the health sectors and other sectors. These are the do's and don'ts. These are the kind of information you should put on AI, and these are the kind of information you should not put on AI. For example, if you have someone's name, his health record, and you're looking for interpretation from ChatGPT, you're asking for trouble. Because maybe as a doctor or as a nurse or someone within the health sector, you're trying to maybe understand some of these things, because a lot of this health profession require research. instead of asking your colleague, you can always ask ChatGPT or any of this AI, but take out those sensitive information so that you don't compromise your work or compromise your place. Then issue of cybersecurity hygiene within the health space. The same thing applies for every other organization. A lot of us, we feel that, oh, Microsoft Office or Windows is very expensive. So we just go to Zone 3 and get the cracked version. It works. Who cares, you know? But the truth is that cracked one may not necessarily be able to update itself. Sometimes these guys find a way to make these things update themselves. But even then, how are you sure that patch that you're putting was not developed by one hacker to find a way into your your domot? So sometimes, rather than going for the more expensive ones, if we can afford them, we can leverage on the open source ones, especially the free ones, so that we can carry out our work. Because the truth is, we can be compromised from in several angles. And then you have to guard your data. That's physically, like, you have to make sure that when you are leaving your data, if it's on a computer, you have to make sure you lock it, because you don't want your colleagues who are not authorized to access certain medical records. I worked with the NHS in the UK, and one of the trainings they gave us then was health data is very sensitive. Maybe me and Doc, for example, we are working in the same hospital. It's unethical for me to ask her maybe like after work and say, oh, how's your patient? Like, no. Unless if I really need that information, I have no business asking her, because unless if it's work related. So that's what they did. So I think we need to be aware of the conventions around here, the local laws, the Data Protection Act. We need to make sure that the doctors, the nurses, and then the cleaners have unlimited access to so many things. They can do a lot. They can just come to the hospital. Okay, what's this? Oh, okay. And that day might be a senator, it might be a governor, it might be some important personality, and all they have to do is just put it on social media. Senator, this has tuberculosis, or something like that. So we need to be careful around how we even keep the data, how we even store it, how we process it. Not just the computer-based data, but the physical data. We have to be mindful. And when someone has no business touching a file, medical file, hospitals that still do medical files, physical files, they have no business. You don't have to say, oh, okay, go and take this file to that person. Does he have right to touch the file? That's the question. If yes, then you can give it to him. Does he understand the laws governing the hospital, or the laws governing the land around handling those files? Because some people are very careless. Because a lot of these leaked files we see online, government data especially, there are maybe people that don't really understand the implication of these laws. And then you just catch it and you send it to your best friend. Your best friend has a best friend. Your best friend has a best friend's best friend. And before you know it, the best friend is online. And then they start looking, okay, who is the CMD? And then before you know it, it's a junior staff somewhere that does not understand the laws, that just casually send it to someone he trusts. And that someone he trusts has so many people that he trusted. And these are how these things get leaked. So we have to be mindful of this data, and we have to learn and know how to protect it. And we as orgas and mid-management staff and lower management staff, we have to make sure that that knowledge is transcended down from the top to the bottom, so that everybody knows this land. Because those guys at the bottom of the chain, the cleaners and whatnot, we tend to skip them when it comes to data protection, trainings and several other trainings. I'm not saying that we do, but sometimes when it comes to training, we don't. This one a cleaner, we don't let them not go to our training, but we need to incorporate them because they have unlimited access. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. The conversation on data and artificial intelligence is very serious. Nobody's even smiling in this room. So rather than ask a question, I want to contribute to this conversation by answering a question that Dr. Nasir raised. So first of all, thank you for laying emphasis on the need for local involvement, in local involvement and promoting those local companies that contribute to contextual problem solving in Nigeria. And I was speaking with a founder a couple of days ago, and we talked about a conversation similar to this. And we agreed on 3 things that are important: data validation, finance, and partnerships. So first of all, and the most obvious one, we have to we have to validate the data that we use to create the problems for our Nigerian solution, the solutions to our Nigerian problems, right? And we also have to look at finance and think about how we can create programs like financial inclusion programs for a lot of these local organizations, these local companies, so that they can navigate the different regulatory environments in Nigeria and help them get finance that they can use to push their companies forward. And then the third and not the least thing is in partnerships. So we have to also create avenues for them to partner, to create corporate partnerships that can strengthen their organizations at the local level that they are now and set them up for global growth and impact. So thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I really appreciate the chance given to me to make a clarification for what is beyond it. I wanted to ask regarding most of the transactions that are taking place in the bank. So when someone happens to be a victim of this hacker through unauthorization withdrawal of fund, I don't know why, whenever you visited a bank, they tell you once you give them that code that requested, they have nothing to do for you. And also if you proceed to the agencies that are responsible for taking care of that issue, they'll also say that they have nothing to do for you. So I don't know whether this is taking us back from what you are trying to progress us regarding to the digital economy. Thank you very much.
You've raised a valid question, but like I've told you, sometimes some of these investigations are not done maybe because what was taken from you was 1,000 naira. I'm not saying that this is the truth, but I'm just saying that this is a scenario. 1,000 naira was taken from you, and even the transportation to coordinate all the relevant departments, it will cost a lot. So what we preach for that awareness that even when someone calls you to transfer money or just delay it, you don't have to, even if they said do it now, just delay it. Understand the situation. A few years ago, I was sitting down in my office space, and I saw a debit, like money taken out from my account. I said, Uber. I said, okay, to know what's this? Next thing I saw another one. I saw like 5 transactions. And then I've never used Uber before in my life, like for anything. This was like almost 8-9 years ago, thereabout. And I went to the bank, I wouldn't call their name. And I said, look, money has been taken from my account. What's going on? They said, use Uber. I said, no, I've never used Uber in my life, like never. I insisted I've never used it. And they gave me a document to fill. And it was like, I think about $300 or $100. And 3 months later, the bank refunded me. So I got my refund. I was very happy because I followed due process. I went to the bank, I complained, I filled out the forms, and I followed up. But it's not the case for everyone else. And what you're saying is you gave them the authorization and that. And I don't know why the bank would not want to look into the case, but at least they should give you a form, they should give you a complaint form that you should fill out and everything else, and then put it through the investigation process and see what really happened. So that was my own personal story. So, and I think we just have to be really, really careful, because sometimes when these things happen, before you get your money back, it might take 3 months if you're lucky, just like me. And if you're not lucky, then it's too bad. So it's just best to always be on the watch on the lookout. If you see anyone making a request, delay that request, go to that person or call him. If he calls you via WhatsApp for that, call him via normal call, because sometimes WhatsApp can become compromised, just to be safe. So you're always better safe than sorry. Thank you.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
A lot of damage has been done so far, starting with historical records. For example, if you ask the internet, if you ask Google, if you ask AI who discovered River Niger, they're going to tell you it's Mungo Park.
Yes.
As a Nigerian, this is a falsified history. But in the educational system or in the world operations, in the most of operation of the world, if you are going to say otherwise in an exam, you're going to fail it. So technically, we've been conditioned in a way to approach the world if we want to make headways. I may know this, but our children coming behind may not know this. And the onus may be on us to drum this in them, because the information they learn, some of the information I learn are mostly from movies or reading books on my own, not from school, not in sitting in the classes. So it therefore means that using this example as a point of departure, a lot of other damages may have been done to us. So even if we want to come on stage, we have the odds are highly stacked against us. So what are the modalities that we can take to protect our children from this history that has been falsified, or these steps that are way against us?
There's a saying that goes, until the lion can write a story, the story would always glorify the hunter. And it's true for everything else. Sure, we went to school, we were told Bayajida, the story of Bayajida, and so many other stories, which is fine. But in academia, like us that do PhD, they tell you have to that critical analysis. So we have to do critical analysis. This is what the text, when you're teaching your kids, this is what the textbook said. This is what your teacher said, and this is what I think. So you have to give that critical thinking to our children, that this is what the textbook said, this is what our own local history said. Bayajida never existed. That's for those that believe that Bayajida never existed. Then allow them to formulate their own opinions. If you ask ChatGPT or any of these AI solutions, give me top global leaders in the world that have spoken around, maybe that have good history and everything else. The first one you see on the list is Nelson Mandela. But whatever happened to Nnamdi Azikiwe? What did he say? Whatever happened to Ahmadu Bello and all these other top leaders that we have? These are people with impeccable records. But the truth is, most of these AIs were not even trained with this data. They were trained with South African data. So we need to start asking, how can we even clean this data? How can we train this data? And how can we even get this AI to challenge our thinking? How can we get our own kids to challenge our thinking? If you look at the entire world, the script is always written by those that lead, that dominate the world, which is fine. But until we start writing our own story, nobody will hear about our own local story. Like the story from my village. Sadly, there isn't much stories from my village. Why? Why? Because my grandparents never wrote a book. They never documented it. And funny enough, in my own village, there's a mosque that has over 200 years of history. Nobody told me this. As a kid, I was just curious, asking questions. Then one of my elder cousins, he now took me to one village, down. He said, okay, do you know that this mosque is actually 200 years? I said, really? How come I've never heard of it? And I checked online. I don't think till today there is anything written about it. There's this famous scholar from Ahmadu Bello University, Dr. Bala Usman. He actually went to visit that location to verify and, just trace his history. But the truth is, my village people never really wrote a book. So the question is, which books are we writing? Huh? So we should sometimes we ourselves are responsible for these things. Have you ever gone to your village and say, okay, which of these histories that is important for my village, and let me put it online? If you go to if you go to Wikipedia now, you find something about my village, and I was the one that put it there. And Wikipedia is open. People can challenge this information. So until we start publishing out information about our own locality, the AI would not have anything to feed on. Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have questions?
Sorry, please. Yes. My name is Caleb. I was actually trying to refine his question before you commented. And the last panel too, I think we didn't have the opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to try, and I jotted down questions that still relates on cybersecurity. I kept looking at the theme of this 13th Digital African Conference exhibition. I'm sorry, I still feel that I'm not hearing enough that is revolving around that key word, sovereign intelligence. I belong to a little school of thought that felt that part of the problem we have in this part of the world is that we are copycats. We just copy what is out there in the so-called developed countries. And one thing that goes with copying is that you either underdo or completely overdo it. You copy everything and you create a bigger problem for yourself. And I think that's what we're also doing with AI. Some brilliant panelists from yesterday up to today, everybody keeps pointing to the fact that where do we have the data? It's outside the shores of this country. And again, we are jumping in, wanting to adopt it, not starting from the foundation to build our own system. So we are still going to copy, and at the end, we're going to start looking for, just like we are discussing about the cybersecurity part of it, start looking for how do I protect myself? How do I protect my kids? How do I avoid this? When that could have been taken into consideration if we developed this ourselves, for ourselves, knowing our complexities or our own uniqueness, different from the Western world. The first panelists were talking about morality, and I was like, excuse me, you could see what our situation is. I fight hard. I'm still a staff. I fight hard to dress like this. And I insisted that this I'm going to dress because, quote, dress code is Monday to Thursday, corporate. Only Friday before you can do dress down. Copycats. So I have a problem that even the sovereign we are talking about, we are still jumping in and accepting colonialism even while we are talking about sovereignty of us in the case of this AI. You gave an example of rural schools that you carried out some survey and I tried to assist them. How many of Nigerian schools even have seats? And you're coming to teach me, or the generation of 20, 30 and above, they're adopting AI. Why those who are starting from the foundation, nothing is being taught them? So how is it going to work? We're still going to copy and copy rubbish. And then after we start looking for how to solve the same problem that we must have created. So I am thinking that, like one of the questions I asked here is, what is the level of education in those countries before they got to the stage of adopting AI in their educational system? Are we close to that? Second question I asked that relates to cybersecurity that you're going to answer for me, and which speaks to what you mentioned that you carried out in Abuja. How many schools have functional computer labs? Let's even say secondary school, not primary. How many? How many have smart boards? I still see pupils being told to buy, to come to school with chalk. In this day and age, they're still having a blackboard. And we're talking of AI. And somebody said, if you want to kill corruption in Nigeria, go to the unborn child and start teaching them from there. Then you can have hope that that generation will come and there'll be no corruption. But as long as we are here and we're not teaching them from that stage, once they come up, they're just going to adopt what they see, and it's going to become worse. And the bad thing about copying is that we copy the wrong things first and develop on that much more. I spent almost 20-something years in the North. I can tell you that the first Hausa languages I picked were insults. Not the good ones. Same thing when I lived in Lagos. So I feel that we should take this issue back to the foundation, and that foundation is not foundation of certification that was spoken of in the earlier panel, but foundation of taking this back to the grassroots. First, lift our educational system to the standard that AI can now be taught from that stage. The children will grow with it, and in that case, we would start developing data and housing data in this part of the world, and then develop our own kind of security that meets our own peculiarities, not that of the Western world, who is already designed AI, made the laws to suit them, keeping us under colonization again with AI. I'm sorry that I spoke for a little long time.
Yeah, you've raised critical questions. I mean, since I sat down here, I've been talking about local content startups, but maybe the word you preferred to hear was sovereignty, but everything I've said was about building local solutions. And then you talked about teaching the fundamentals. The truth is, there's a concept called leapfrogging. We can't wait until we have skyscrapers in Abuja and everywhere else before we start talking about AI. We can leverage on our current situation now, start teaching them. And the federal government, I can tell you that they've been active in this space. They've been trying in various fronts. For example, to give you specific context, I was involved with the curriculum development for HND programs for AI and cybersecurity. This was 3 years ago. And sometime this year, I was actually called back in to come and accredit some of these institutions. So not just, even NUC is actually doing the same. They've approved the the teaching of courses around AI at BSc level. But the polytechnics, they've started doing that conversation a bit earlier, which is good. So it's a conversation, maybe not at the pace we want, but at least we are doing something. We're trying. You know, everyone is trying his effort, but like you said, there's need to maybe accelerate that conversation. And my security guard, I don't need to wait until he's able to speak English fluently before I start teaching him AI. The question is, we even have to decolonize our heads. What I mean by that is, my security guard, for example, he's actually illiterate. He can read and write in Hausa. So do you call him an illiterate? Exactly. But a lot of us think, okay, he doesn't speak English, so he's not. No, but we correspond. He sent me WhatsApp. I sent him to market. I'm just trying to bring it to you on local level. So teaching someone AI like that will not be hard. Why? Because he has the basic literacy. Like, at least he can read and write. So we have to start thinking of how we can, it's a multifaceted problem, and we cannot solve it overnight, but let's keep pushing this agenda, pushing this narrative, that we don't have to wait until we have skyscrapers. As we are like this, what can we do to leapfrog, leveraging on AI? There are kids that are being taught programming in far north. Those kids are not even taught English, straight programming, just jumping the gun, not jumping the gun, but jumping that process of learning. And they're doing very well. Some of them, they're programming. Some of them are content creators, and they're doing very well. So we don't have to follow this linear approach of development. Even this Western world that we're talking about, it took them 200, 300 years from where we are. Of course, there are some countries that built, like Singapore, they built everything within a shorter time. But we have to start looking in our own context. What can we do to accelerate development? And I think AI can really, really help us. It can really help us in that leapfrogging concept. That's my own input.
Yes, I was just there to say, so there's this proverb that said that if they bring water to your if they bring water to your house, you can't say you're not prepared. You fight what you have. So for the issue of this artificial intelligence, you understand that there's this kind of gap. So even if you go to developed countries, there's still that gap between the rich and the poor. It will always exist. So the thing is that we have some schools now that have access to tablets. They have access to computers. Even some public schools now, that is, I don't know, I think it's Universal Trust Fund or something, where they give computers to school. So we can actually start from there. So like I said, Rome was not built today, like you said. We have to start from somewhere, because this artificial intelligence is staring us in the face. So we cannot say that, okay, please, AI, wait, you want to go and prepare our house. No, we are going to make do with what we have. And it starts from you, it starts from high. The responsibility as a parent to ensure that we guide these children. Most of you just give phone to your children to be pressing, and they are babies, and go and be doing other works. You know what is happening? Phone is artificial intelligence. You are allowing artificial intelligence to train your child for you. So it also starts from us as individuals. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just add a little to what they already say. if you were here in the previous session, they talked about educating and awareness like a lot from beginning to end. So yes, we, like he rightly said, we don't need to have skyscrapers before we start doing something about it. I listened to I've forgotten your name, programmer. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. So I listened to him and he said he didn't start with sciences, but currently he's developing with artificial intelligence. And you don't have to be in the sciences. Like, you don't have to have a tech background for you to incorporate these things. Before now, we used to be reliant on the government for our jobs. But now most of our youths work remotely. And it's because of the use of AI. So we don't have to wait until it happens. Also, you said that the data is being trained by the Western world. I don't think so. The Western world does not have the capacity to train, or it's not that they don't have the capacity, but rather they refuse to use their own data to train AI. They're actually using, most of what they use is the African data. And you also said something about the intelligence. I don't know, that's just a word, but with everything we have been saying, if we trace back to the days of the abacus or what, I think Africans have been the major people producing the intelligence that the white people are actually harnessing to give us back. Like I said earlier, we have these basic raw materials, we have everything, but we give it to them to now use it to create something and then bring back to us. And I don't know, last year I have forgotten a program I attended and I mentioned something like this, and I said, it doesn't make sense to me that we have all the raw, is it iron we are looking for, copper, what, all the raw materials, we actually have all of them in Africa, and then we give it to them and they use it to produce something and then they bring it back to us. We will now use our money to buy our own raw materials back in refined product, and it really didn't make sense to me. So the intelligence, the data and everything, I think Africans are still the ones producing majority of it. You have a question, programmer?
We will not be able to take any more questions, please. Any other contribution, questions, or feedback you have, can you just note it down and share with us, and then we can respond on that. This was a really great session. Thank you so much, Mr. Nasir and Mrs. Fadikwe. Can you please give them a solid round of applause? This was a very interesting session. Thank you so much. So while they are taking the photographs, I want you to know about these two awesome books by Mr. Evans Woherem. It's Building a New Africa, which is paperback, How Africa Can Break Free from Foreign Influence and Shackles of Underdevelopment and Build a Whole New Future. And the second book on here is Information Technology and Africa, Riding the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Okay, so you can get the books at the back there. And also, if you just want to make a phone call, you can call 0903 2034 618 Abbas Shiro, and they can help you with making sure you have a copy of your book. Okay, great. We've listened to awesome people. I'm refreshed. I'm energized. I'd like us to quickly move on to the next session, which is AI for social good, from smart governance to sustainable cities. From smart governance to sustainable cities. This going to be a very interesting conversation. But before we go into this, I'd like to know, is Paul Ojo, is he online? Can you confirm if Paul Ojo is online? Can you? Okay, I just want to ask him. He was supposed to be on the two previous panels. I want to ask him a question. Let him just add this contribution before we proceed. Can you please confirm, Paul? Say hello. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Oh, great.
Hello.
Paul is the founder for Project Connect, and he wasn't here when we were doing the training, the next generation of AI thinkers, due to our time difference. But I'm sure he has a lot of gems that he wants to share with us here. So, Paul, I'd like us to in about 5 minutes, or if you can make it less, that would be great. Can you tell us, how do you think we can train the next generation of AI thinkers? What do you think we can do? What are the challenges that we have, and how are we going to overcome it? Just let it go.
All right. All right. Thank you so much once again. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to, contribute even because of the time difference, and I have to do this now. I mean, I've had a lot of talk from very smart people, and I think everybody is thinking all right. So, from my perspective and from what we've been doing at Approach Connect, we do believe that we have to meet the current generation from where they are and take it up from there. And then we also have to go back to what my brother talked about. My brother with a traditional wear on a Wednesday. That we also have to inculcate this at the very fundamental level. Again, we also have to be aware that we have to start from where we are, just like everyone have spoken about. And so at Approach Connect, we believe that students are taking different classes, they are being taught different courses, and so majority of Nigerians right now, when you talk about AI, all they think about is generating photo, videos online, and content, and getting followers and monetization. Only extremely very few people think about what AI really is. So the reality is that most younger Nigerians don't really know what AI is. I mean, on the average, I'll put it that way. And so a way we think we can help is, if you are studying public health, there's a public health problem out there that AI can solve. But the problem is, if you want a public health student to solve an AI problem, I mean a problem with AI in the public health, and this student has no background in mathematics or strong background in mathematics or computer science or programming, the same student will be lost. And so we are in the era of collaboration. That is the oil of the 21st century, whereby a public health student could leverage his public health fundamentals and then collaborate with other interdisciplinary people in maybe like computer science, AI expert, programmers, then come up with a solution in the public health industry, the public health sector. But to do this, we really need to find a way to bridge the future of Africa, the use of artificial intelligence in the African development with the current system we have, and that is where Approach Connect comes in. So what we have done at Approach Connect is to pick the curriculum we currently have. Recently we have an updated version.
Great.
I think 2023.
Okay.
When I was going through the curriculum, I was really marveled at the content, really rich content. And I do believe that the problem we have is the delivery of this content, not the content themselves. And so at Approach Connect, what we do is to put this content, took us, a long time to database this content, and then develop an AI algorithm that can take this content from where they are into the opportunities and AI applications, or I would say innovative application of this content in developing solutions to problems in that sector. And we all know this. If you go to the street right now, as I round up, I think hypothetically I can say 90 to 95% of Nigerian graduates, they have no idea what they have studied in the university is applicable in society. This is a huge problem. Sometimes we always think like all this AI thing and the rest. The few people that actually know the fundamentals of AI are really probably, I don't think it's up to like 5% of Nigerians. The rest are more like application. And when we talk about application, majority of Nigerians right now probably just think of generative AI, go to ChatGPT and generate one answer to a question of an assignment from a content from Harvard. And then the professor that is grading your assignment probably have no idea of even some of the things you are trying to talk about. And so he might grade you right to avoid conflict, but within himself, he knows that this is just an AI output. Even me, I'm even learning from this assignment right now because I don't even know what he's even talking about. And so we get this curriculum, and then we don't have to go to the complication of the AI to be built. We built what we call GemNext. That is the AI tool I'm sure you have seen in our exhibition booth, where this GemNext pick this curriculum. Basically, we are meeting students where they are. We are saying you have studied biology, correct? You have taken this class from year 1 to year 4, correct? Now, we build what we call foundational knowledge with this knowledge, with this experience you have had. On the assumption that you have studied well, not an abracadabra exam and memorizing, cheating exam and why. We just build on the assumption that you have studied. and say, okay, with what you have, these are the opportunities available for you. However, you need additional innovations or innovation skills to be able to advance your foundational knowledge to match up with the global demand for these opportunities. And so we begin to develop process-based or project-based innovation courses that can complement those foundational knowledge that make you relevant for the opportunities. And
all right, Paul. So, Paul, what I'd like to do here, I'd like to add you to the discussion, the next discussion. Hey, Paul, are you there?
Yeah, I'm rounding up now.
Okay, great. I also like to join the next conversation so that you can also share some more input. Well, go ahead and round up.
Okay, so yeah, as I round up with this chance to speak, basically we are meeting students where they are, and to remove the fear of AI, because there's also a fear. Actually, a lot of us don't know this. You tell the student studying agriculture or AI, he knows that AI is about computer, it's about programming, computer science. He doesn't know. He was already scared. But we tell him, no, what we are saying is that you can develop a solution in the agricultural sector, agriculture, a lot. Then you collaborate with people with the foundational AI knowledge, but then you can build a solution. And then in the process, you actually learn. And so with that, you relieve the fear they have. This is exactly what we are doing at Approach Connect. And I will have a chance to speak further in my next panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. A round of applause for Paul. Okay, right, let's just jump right into the session. I'm going to call onto the stage the Chief Executive Officer for CrossFair Nigeria Limited, Sonia Somovi. You're welcome. Round of applause for her, please. And secondly, we're meant to have Ambali Ibrahim, who is the CEO and co-founder of AMCAN, but is here ably represented by engineer Nasir Idris, who is the CTO for AMCAN Limited. You're welcome, Mr. Nasir. Is Edward Emmanuel on the call? Can you confirm? He's joining us remotely. Edward Emmanuel?
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Edward. Edward is the founder and the director of EE Digital Capital. This session will focus on practical African use cases, how AI can make tax collection fairer, public spending more transparent, farming more productive, and cities more livable. Before I spill all the beans, I'll let Angela just show us the right path. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Fela, for that wonderful introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to be back here for day 2. And honestly, I must say that I am sad to see this come to an end. It started yesterday, and it's been a wonderful time with all the engaging discussions and discourse that we've had in this room here today. And like someone noted earlier on, we were not smiling because we're having serious conversations in this room about the future of AI in Nigeria, and not to mention the African continent. And it's pretty interesting stuff, honestly. It's pretty scary stuff as well, which is why we're having these conversations right here in this room. Now, I'll quickly get into the bios of our panelists because we have to know that we're in safe hands here, that of course we have experts speaking to us. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly react to all the conversations that we've had from yesterday into today. And it's pretty interesting. We keep on talking about the copy and paste model that Nigeria and Africa has adopted because of our exposure to what's happening in the West and in the East and all of that. And with all the copy and paste, I feel like what Nigeria should have actually taken out from all of this is the fact that we have this blueprint now, because we talk about the existence of the Americas who have a long history of over 200 years and whatnot. Yes, Nigeria may not be that old, but that's the beauty of it. As young as we are, we have a blueprint that we can easily follow. So we don't have to do copy and paste. We could just take models that we feel like, okay, let's try and improve upon this, which is essentially what a country like China actually does. A lot of people, and I'm not saying myself, have accused China of the copy and paste method, but living with them, one thing I did realize is that they tried to improve upon every single thing that they were exposed to. There were a lot of advancements. Professor Prima mentioned it here yesterday. Whenever we send out students to go study abroad or even people who are in the workforce going out to take courses and whatnot, it's important that they return and share the knowledge that they've garnered over there in their respective countries. Unfortunately, Nigeria has not fared very well in that regard, because I remember I had a couple of country mates when I was out there who are doing pretty amazing stuff, a lot of research in the tech field and all of that, and many of them were retained. So they stayed back in China because China witnessed that this was talent that they needed to hold on to. So they kept them there. And I imagined if Nigeria, knowing very well that we sent out these students because here's the the interesting thing about it. Many of them were scholarship students. So Nigeria was paying for them to be educated in that country, yet they did not return. So these are some of the things that we have to actually look into if we actually want to make any kind of headway when we talk about AI and where what the future is going to look like for the African continent. I feel like I've said too much. Let me keep it moving. So my name is Angela Agbegi, and I'm going to be moderating this session on AI for social good, from smart governance to sustainable cities. Once again, it's a hybrid discussion. We have people joining us online, and we have some people here also joining us physically, and let me welcome them once again. But let me start by reading their biographies. So we have Hambali Idris, who is here represented by engineer Nasir Idris, CTO Amcan Limited, a company using artificial intelligence to make mental health care more accessible and effective across Nigeria. Their work focuses on helping health organizations, governments, and investors provide quality mental health support, even in underserved and rural areas. Looking forward to hearing your contributions to this discussion. You're welcome on board. Thank you so much. Confidence, Jack May founder, PASB, founder of PASB and Igolo, created digital identity platforms, improving secure access and cross-border digital inclusion for African nationals. By 2023, it launched a platform enabling single sign-on for sensitive applications, enhancing identity security. And then also, for Rebat Labs leadership, led development of cryptographic systems and web infrastructure for identity management over 5 years. Up next, we have Edward Samuel, founder, director, EE Digital Capital, almost missed that. He advises technology startups and corporations on launching and scaling innovative ventures across diverse sectors since 2023. He's a growth and fundraising expert, guides organizations through product development, customer acquisition, and international fundraising with experience managing teams and commercialization strategies. And then there's Sonia is it Samuvi or Samuvier? Samuvier. Okay, so I was right then. Fella got it wrong. CEO of Courseware Nigeria Limited, leads projects at the intersection of technology, environment, and urban development in Nigeria, and champion of digital innovation, uses smart technologies and data-driven solutions to address urban expansion, climate risk, and housing quality, fostering sustainable city growth. And we also have Paul Ojo from Proj Connect, founder of Proj Connect, also joining in on this session. He was supposed to be a part of the previous session, but I guess he could not join in. So we're so glad to have you here with us now. Let's dive in. Some questions I feel like we should walk away being able to answer from this particular session are, how can we harness technology to create inclusive, sustainable solutions tailored to Africa's unique context? With great promise, of course, comes great responsibility and expectation. So how do we ensure that AI bridges inequalities rather than widens them? We're going to be answering some questions here now with our panel members, so let's dive into it. And my first question goes as such: how can AI improve transparency and accountability in public spending across African governments? Should I start? Let me start with you, Mr. Idris.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Angela. Good afternoon, everyone. So, when we talk about AI for social good, we are really talking about AI for human dignity. See, to me, AI for social good, it means using intelligence that reflects our realities and priorities. You see, across the world, AI is reshaping economies. But here in Africa, it has the power to reshape lives. Take mental health, for example, one of Africa's most silent yet neglected crises. According to World Health Organizations, over 75% of Africans who need mental health care can't access it due to either stigma, cost, lack of professionals, or even lack of awareness. So at AMCAN, we are leveraging sovereign innovation to bridge that gap. by creating intelligent systems that offers users with that by creating intelligence that connects users to right mental health resources from the comfort of their homes. So we believe AI should connect, not control, empower, not exploit, and heal, not harm. That's how AI becomes a social good, not by replacing human compassion, but by scaling it.
Hmm.
So I think
That's a very good one, Mr. Edith, and thank you so much for relating it back to what you do on a daily basis. Let me come to you with that same question, Sonia. How can AI improve transparency and accountability in public spending across African governments?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Look, this place is too serious for my liking. I feel like there's a rope or a chain on my foot against this set. I like to be very interactive when I do my own. The truth is that is natural for a kid. But when the environment is one where you get to a certain level of self-awareness and you now realize, oh, my family is barely putting it together, you move from dreaming, from being curious or optimistic into surviving. And an average Nigerian youth is surviving. You see it in how we behave. We're in school to secure our future. However, we're selling hairs and pants and chargers so that we don't want to come out without any financial support, right? So I feel like we can harness AI, or the government can harness AI to reassure Nigerians that they are not being exploited. And you know what's funny? Once this happens, they will turn on the switch on patriotism, and I trust you. I promise you, our JAPA level will reduce. We will keep our homegrown talent, even if they go out to, get more knowledge. We're able to retain them, and they benefit the economy of the country long term.
Thank you so much for that. That's something Nigeria could definitely stand to gain from. It's like the example that I gave before we got into it. We need to bring back our talent. So we have Mr. Paul and Mr. Edward online. Do we also have Mr. Confidence? Or he's not with us? IT team? Hello, Mr. Edward. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Awesome. It's great to also see you via the screen. So, of course, we're talking about improving transparency and accountability in public spending across African governments. I want to hear your thoughts on how local communities could get involved, especially as this also concerns them as well.
Well, that's a very good point, because I think the overarching theme around, the inequalities. So a lot of talk around how AI can be, a boon for peoples, for communities, for governments, but there's also a risk of actually increasing the divide in terms of accessibility, because you have certain groups or certain folks who have access to the technologies and solutions, and others who are not having as much access. So that causes an issue. So in terms of trying to put forth public services, there has to be continue consultations with people, members of the public and communities to give feedback into what the civil service of government has to say. So in terms of where AI can come in, there are the two broad application models in the current sphere in broad categories. So there's you call them the agentic sort of agentic bots model, and then there's the AI workflows model. And in terms of having a lot of personalization and tailored to the individuals, a lot of organizations are moving towards the agentic bots model, where it's almost like a personal advisor coming in to tailor to your needs. So depending on the approach, I think government and within, whether it's Nigeria or Africa as a whole, there has to be a sort of high level approach on how to solicit consultations from members of the public, and make sure the vast spectrum of communities get their say or their input as well. And if it's not through access to the internet or the existing smartphones, then there can be again the person agent model where who's coming into communities to kind of record inputs and key sort of ideas from stakeholders in different parts of your countries, communities, rural and urban. So I think it still requires that hand-holding from that human touch, that you still need people on the ground. As if we don't have the sort of internet penetration, or even though the uptake for smartphones and access to mobile internet has been increasing rapidly on the continent, there's still a divide, and a lot of people are on classic GSM. So you still require people to come in to capture decisions and make sure no one is left out of the loop, and then bring it back into the fold, whether through your AI agentic bots or your workflows, which are summarizing those inputs and bringing back insights to decision makers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edward. I'm so glad that we're all agreeing that you cannot take out the human touch, even though we're dealing with technology. Mr. Paul, let me come to you with that same question. Mr. Paul, do we still have you with us?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Good to see you again. Oh, looks like we have a young AI enthusiast. Hi.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, excellent. So yes, Mr. Paul, we're talking about how local communities can get involved when we talk about improving transparency and accountability in public spending across African governments.
Well, I think we all go back to education here, and basically local communities might not know the complexities and the really core principles that govern like AI applications and the rest of that. Most of the time, what they just want is a system where their needs are met, and then the process over time, they learn how the process works and how those needs are met. I mean, for some of us that have been chance to travel abroad, like maybe in America, you go to like rural communities, you don't really think they know a lot as much as those in New York. But then you go to those places, they have electricity, they have internet, UPS delivers their goods to them, and the system works just like it works in New York. even if they don't have to know the complexities around it. And so I think in Africa and Nigeria, I would say we really need a system where once it works, we deliver it across the board. And then over time, the local people begin to get more awareness on what works. And then obviously some of them will begin to learn how it works. But we are usually more, I don't want to use the word bedeviled in Nigeria, in Africa. We always think education, people have to know. But then something needs to work first. It is the working of a system that people begin to learn more of how it works. So until the system begin really put things to work, just really passing the knowledge to the local people when it's not yet working is a big problem. So I do believe the local people will get to see the advantage of what is working, and in the process, they learn how it works. So this one of the ways I think we can really, bridge that gap between the local, awareness of some of these tools and how to solve the problem at the local level. They have to see that the system works. And to wrap this up, you, for example, go to a remote area, you build a school, like a school for them, and they're excited, and after 1 year, nobody has come to inspect the school is getting dilapidated, all the water they built in the school is already gone, nothing is working anymore. Then after 2 or 5 years, the school is back to square one. Because we don't have the system of sustainability, we don't have the system of evaluation, we don't have the system of maintenance. And so the local people will not remember the beautiful thing we have done, but they remember that we have not done anything. So in summary, I do believe that Africa or Nigeria is at a point where we have to make policies, we have to make system work. And then the people at the local level, at the very rural level, or people that are at the lower level of literacy, just like my senior colleague mentioned in the previous panel, someone might not speak English. I mean, English is just a language. But once the person could communicate in Yoruba and could respond in Yoruba, I mean, basically that is literacy. But then we could understand that might be at a certain level. But once they understand that, okay, whatsoever these big people, like like how we use it in Nigeria, in Abuja, in Lagos, whatever they are doing, when they are seeing the impact directly in their life, in their communities, then over time, they actually begin to learn how it works. So this kind of what I think we could focus on, workability. That is the final term I will use for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mr. Paul. So, Ms. Sonia, let me just ask you then, do you agree with everything Mr. Paul has just said? Because he's talking about, getting the work done first, and then it'll spread as time goes on, and the government should just put policies in place to make systems work. So it's not really about them like taking ownership, like partaking, like being stakeholders and whatever it is that's being brought to them.
I don't completely agree. Because while he was talking, I was just here asking myself, like, is this the same Nigeria that just 20 years ago, people did not want to migrate far from their city capital because everything that was working in the city was working at the supposed rural area? There is a reason why there's been a massive migration from urban areas, rural areas to urban areas. And it's because of over-reliance on governance or government. We've been talking about traveling abroad and all of that. Tell me one country that's doing very well that is not run by innovators and businesses. I can guarantee you that even in the US, policies are being made, suggested by companies. I said something earlier that we're a bit lazy to dream. As far as I'm concerned, Nigeria is unharvested, and foreign investors know this. Our policies are not very friendly for them to come in, but it allows for us who are here to dream and push beyond boundaries, right? So if we wait for, let it work in Abuja or Port Harcourt or Lagos, what happens to Maiduguri? What happens in Maiduguri? Unrest. What happens in your village? Unrest. Because the people who can't make it to those cities become a bane to the existence of their neighbors, right? But there was a time where it was a governance or government kind of setup. Civil service was the big thing. And it was equally divided. People who were living in Oshogbo and those places, we had government workers who would go to ministry at state levels to work. But the world is moving very fast, and I don't see any reason why it has to work here, especially when whatever is making it work in Abuja is also available in Bayelsa. It's about proper planning, creating a template at a national level that can be replicated at state level, and then it can further be broken down to local government. Now, I understand that exposure is not the same everywhere. However, these things can be customized to fit those people at their levels, because there is government presence in every state. Whether you're from Jigawa, you are from, I really want one very weird old state that people don't even think about in the south, right? Whether you are from those kind of places, it doesn't matter. Whatever works on top can be replicated at a smaller level.
Absolutely.
And if these things are available, you will be surprised how far people would want to go with their imagination, giving birth to new ideas, new collaboration, and investment opportunities. There are grants internationally all over this world that are just sitting there waiting for outstanding ideas, right? Hence, the government has their role. The government have their role.
Of course.
We have. Nigeria is an untapped market, whether AI for logistics, emergency logistics like ambulance services and fire services, those are places that people are not thinking about. AI for traffic solutions. We have traffic in Maitama here, and people still need to come on the road to wave their hands to say, do you understand? Sensor security lights. Why are we putting new solar lights every other 3 months and they're stealing them? These things can be sent. You understand what I'm trying to say? So I don't think that it has to be there. China did not sit down and say, oh, we are being marginalized and we're just going to wait for the rural whatever. It doesn't work. Sometimes you have to rip the Band-Aid, allow the top of the skin pull off, and then everything will heal. Nigeria is in the state where we need very drastic changes. And trust me, Nigerians have the capacity to adapt, to dream, and to align with these things. All the government needs to do is have a template, have policies that allows for foreign and local investment to fly, and leave the rest. I think it will work. But if we're going on to say, okay, how old are the people in government? AI for them is about creating deep fakes and election. That's what they think this is. And then, like somebody said, the average Nigerian youth uses it for content creation. Children are creating apps. Not children abroad. Children in an average Nigerian household are using their parents' phones to create apps. There was a time where government school was the only place you can get a complete science lab. I went to a government school in secondary. Nothing is stopping a government school, either in your village or in the city, to have a complete working or a proper working, what they call it now, computer lab. You love Nigeria to the point you came back, right? So if you are designated to say, we want you to champion this, go train the teachers in this school, in this village, this is your accommodation and everything for 6 months, get them to understand it so that they can teach it to the children, will you go?
Of course.
A lot of Nigerians will. I can. And this was what they were doing before. So I just feel like we are looking towards the government so much that we forget that we have functional brains, we have passion in our hearts, and they were not taking relevant steps to progress.
In a nutshell, we are the government, so we're waiting on ourselves. And we're waiting a little bit too long. So you mentioned some areas, of course, that we can use AI to make our lives a little bit easier. So I want to move on to government services now, for example. Also on the subject of public spending. I'm talking about taxes now, for example. So is it possible that AI can make services like taxes fairer and more transparent? What practical applications can we be looking at to make it fairer and more efficient for Nigeria, not to mention the African continent? Let's go to Mr. Idris. He's been a little bit quiet.
So I think the way is that if we can build this thing ethically, first of all, we have to think about building these AI systems ethically. They have to be rooted in our own realities. Let's look at it in the African context or Nigerian context. What we need actually here in Nigeria or Africa is contextual intelligence. AI systems that are rooted in our own culture, languages, and emotional realities. So these systems, they can be very fairer if we build them on our own ethical basis. We can't just simply import Western data set and expect African outcomes. That's not possible.
Absolutely.
We have to train those models in our own languages, cultures, and emotional realities. So
Thank
I
you so
think
much for that point, Mr. Idris. Now I'll come to you, Sonia. Why is that posing such a great challenge? Why is that posing such a great challenge for us to actually make sure this thing is rooted in our culture, in our way of thinking, in our peculiar circumstances as Nigerians, and not to mention Africans? Why are we just taking what works for an American or a European? I'm none of those, so why will that work for me?
Can I ask a question? I will let's come back to you guys. When was it? Did they flog you in school for speaking your local language and not English? We are a product of conditioned learning. I had my natural hair for a while. It's so hard to maintain, right? One morning, I was not feeling great. It was so hot. And then I was combing it. I was like, you know what? Scrap this. I went to the salon and I put a relaxer on my hair. And it looks casual. But this is the Westerner in us. Yes. Even, have you seen Nigerians who have never traveled and have an accent? A very good one. Right? We feel better when we're wearing English clothes. Today, somebody was like, my friend was like, you wear Ankara skirt and suit top. I said, huh?
That was me yesterday.
Beat me.
Yes.
So I'm Western here and
Nigerian there.
Bottom line is, and I say this everywhere I go, an average Nigerian or African is not proud to be Nigerian. We are not patriotic. Let me ask a very minor question. The house that you're living, if you rented this, do you wish that your flat can be upgraded? It's most likely yes. Will you want to spend that money? It's most likely yes. Why not? For house when I know build. So you see this thing where we separate ourselves from where we are from. And every day I go online and I see Africans in the diaspora, children, Africans born abroad, trying to identify badly with us. They are wearing African prints, wearing carries. They are so excited if they can greet in their language and making content about it. And you are from here. And somebody was saying earlier about who's going to put up the data. You put up the data.
Absolutely.
Everything we have is garbage in, garbage. Somebody uploaded something, and then you are getting all this intellectual result. We can train it. Like he said about our language. But then, even if we cannot get something original, we can build on the things we already have. China did not lose who they are. They didn't lose their culture. They didn't lose their values. They collected the Western technology, collected Western medicine, added it to their own. So they can be treating you and the Western one is not working. They will go back to Chinese traditional medicine. But all of this points to the fact that they love who they are, they love where they are from. I just put up a post on my Instagram today and I said, I know it's difficult, but try to love Nigeria. Patriotism is why our fathers were able to grow to the point that they were. However, when the reliance on governance came, we went in the direction they were pointing, get an education. They started locking us up, no community, no loyalty to the clan or your culture. Hence, crime has increased, but that is not the topic for today. But as far as I'm concerned, if we were more patriotic about Nigeria, if we loved our country to the point where even when you're abroad, you're like, I can't wait to steal all this knowledge and go home and do this. It's no longer a case of, I did jackpot for good, or God has done it for me, I don't jackpot. It's a case of, I've gone to learn, I'm coming back. And then let Nigeria feel your presence. Whether you are there or here, information is now global. The world has gone global, and you can learn anything from anywhere. So I just personally believe strongly that if we are more patriotic and we are intentional about creating value in our country, for our neighbors, our brothers, ourselves, these things are not a problem. I'm sure that about half of the people here are programmers. If 2-3 of you come together, let's do a drill tonight, let's just do a sleepover, let's create a framework to customize an AI platform for Africans, maybe one to tell our stories or something we're going to come up with a solution. even if not very grand. And when we start working on it, as we develop it, as we go along the way, it's going to be something that stands out. So it's about, if you dream in patriotism, oh God, right is that? Okay, let's just be patriotic and dream it. So thanks.
It's so hard. It's so hard. It's possible, but it's so hard. Thank you so much for that, Sonia. Mr. Paul, I'm coming to you. We still have Mr. Paul on board, right? All right. So we're talking about tax collection, making tax collection fairer and more efficient in African countries. Can you talk about some AI applications that you feel could possibly help make this a reality for us sooner than later?
I think I mean I'm not like that's not like my specialization, so I may not be able to really go deep into this, but I think when I mean tax is coming and the rest of that. So I mentioned that is what exactly Approach Connect is building, like year 1 to year 4. Not the definition I have, but the core principles of taxation and the fundamentals. Such a fellow could, come up with a thought, an idea that the technological advanced individuals or the AI expert could, put into an application that is now workable. But if you just talk to an AI expert, they could come up with something, but at the end of the day, sometimes it might not really meet up with the principles of taxation, and then we can leave that there. Now, one thing is sure, in the developed world, they build a system of taxation that is basically some policy how employer have to report taxes, and then people have been saying that individual companies around the country have their own different taxation companies, and they basically help taxation. And so now in the era of AI, we basically need a system that can have a template where if you just punch in all the necessary information, it gives you an kind of a breakdown of what exactly it is. How much tax are you paying? How much tax have you paid? How much is your return? That's if you're going to return in Nigeria. I don't know if they also think about that as part of theirs. But then, given that, like I said,
Looks like we're having difficulty with Mr. Paul's connection.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, but it's choppy. But go on, please.
Yeah, I think it's signal. So, like I said, it has to be more like implementing policies and bringing those policies into a technology that can be used to generate a template that users can better understand how the templates works. For example, in the United States, which a lot of companies are already incorporating AI into their taxation applications, you basically just kind of replicate like government forms as a template in those apps, and then they ask you some basic questions. Then the output of these apps will be like a submittable form for your tax return or tax filing. And so with that, the individual users might not know the complications and the complicated principles around the taxation, but all they need to know is, okay, I work here, I earn this amount. But again, I don't know if Nigeria is up to that level where it's not just how much do you earn from this income, but there has to be a certain form. Like here in the United States, we have what is called W-2. A W-2 is a form given to you from your employer. Just by, like me, I just like snap my W-2 and extraction from this form and fill it to my tax return, return filing. And so the apps that can be built around this is something similar. Apps that will be built around the template of the form that government wants. Then users will only need to put in those basic details. But then it's not just about those details, but then there should be a like an evidence, I would say like a paper from the government or from the employer that once you like take a photograph, it extract those details and extrapolate them into the form usable for taxation. Because if that is not there, then I mean you can.
Okay, looks like we've lost.
Can
Mr.
imagine if you just
Thank-
then that
thank
that
you
will
so
not
much
reflect
for-
what is
thank you so
expected
much
to do.
for
So
that, Mr. Paul.
I do believe that those are some of the things we have to start thinking about, and I wouldn't know if people with those taxation knowledge and principles are really working on this. I mean, that is not my specialization, so I'm probably not thinking about that. But I do think these are the directions we have to take. And now to round up, based on what I do now, back to what I do, our project is building a system where an economic graduate is to be thinking in this direction now. App that we work on taxation doesn't have to be built by AI expert alone. They have to be built by interdisciplinary people who also understand the fundamentals of taxation. So an economic graduate that does not know that it needs this kind of innovation is just I just passed an exam in the university and he has no idea how what he has learned is applicable in the society. So this where my own specialization lies in making younger generation and university students understand how what they have learned fundamentally for 4-5 years is applicable in society and how they can collaborate to build solutions around the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. All right, I want to move on to my next question. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Idris. How can AI help fix everyday problems in African cities? I love how you made mention of what the work that you're doing in mental health awareness and all of that. So let's hear more of that, giving us real life examples in this particular context.
That's an excellent question. So you see, just recently, we were all shaken by the tragic loss of a soldier and his wife from the 221 Battalion in Niger State. It was indeed a devastating signal, a reminder that mental health is not a luxury, it is a matter of national well-being and security. So at AMCAN, we are developing a AI-powered ecosystem designed to detect early indicators of mental health distress and seamlessly connect individuals, including teachers, healthcare workers, and our frontline officers, to a timely, confidential, and culturally sensitive support to make their mental health care more affordable, accessible, and stigma-free. So I think if we talk about sorry, can you repeat that last part of your question?
So how can we use AI to help fix everyday problems in African cities? Giving us, of course, real life examples, which is why I made mention of your work in mental health awareness.
Yes. So I will summarize that in 3 points. First of all, we need data sovereignty. Africa must protect and empower. Africa must protect and ethically govern its data to train models that reflect its realities. Secondly, local innovation ecosystems. We must empower our developers, researchers, youth, and entrepreneurs with the tools and infrastructure needed to build. Thirdly, purposeful partnerships. Collaborations should focus on impact, not extractions. So I think if we use this AI ethically through this recommended points, it can actually solve day-to-day problems.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Idris. Sonia, I'm coming back to you, but let me just quickly go to Edward. Mr. Edward, knock, knock. Do we still have Mr. Edward with us? This is Mr. Paul. Mr. Edward, step forward, please.
Hi.
Hello. All right, great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Perfect. So we have you back with us. So we're talking about using AI to fix everyday problems in African cities. So I want to hear from your perspective, giving real life examples, especially from your line of specialty or expertise.
I think I agree with so it's almost, we have to pay attention about the the cart before the horse issue. So with any sort of AI model, you have to have access to the right data, and building upon those data sets to kind of train your models to deliver insights thereafter. So in that regard, we need to make sure that the fundamentals are there in our services, in our public services, and that data is being collected, the right kind of minimum viable data sets are being collected, and before we progress to making sure they're in the right formats, and then you can apply your AI and machine learning and learning models thereafter. So I think that's step one. Make sure that we're collecting the data sets. If we're not already doing that, then can start to harness that. And then we start to move to the use cases. So I mean, from an urban point of view, I think it was mentioned around traffic management, traffic control, about the urban sprawl. I think it was mentioned how rural communities are moving into cities because that's just the nature of opportunities, or at least how community and societies are seeing that opportunities are more available in the urban sprawl. But how do we plan for the urban sprawl and densities and access to basics, whether it's electricity, clean water, amenities in terms of food and shelter, and moving up the ladder in terms of schooling and obviously the basics of housing. So I think a lot of that is fed by data points, and if you're not capturing the data points, then you have the cart before the horse, and we're not able to apply or have the privilege of your AI producing the sort of insights on how to plan. So if we jump ahead and we've had those data sets collected, then we can have the models telling us like, hey, listen, there is a density built up happening in XY coordinates of this area. There's going to be an overload on the electrical demand. I mean, there's no access to water in this area, and this is the trajectory urban planning has to go. These are just some of the examples about urban sprawl and urban planning, and then and the traffic example around how to plan for your infrastructure, for your traffic management and moving mobility of people, because within city centers there's always a density and a build up, and the infamous traffic jam. So we want to plan around how to alleviate that, and when we get the data inputs on where the chokeholds are, then we know what we have to do to alleviate that, whether it's through the form of corridors, public corridors for bus transportation or other forms of public transportation to alleviate sort of those congestions. So I think we'll have to come back to the starting point of what are the challenges we're facing, and what are the data sets we need to collect around those challenge sets before we can move to the third step of getting the models to provide those insights for us. And maybe even we can use a human in the loop before even the models come in, where they can connect the dots on the insights, on the data insights as well. And you have your AI solutions coming in as a sort of a co-pilot almost to validate if you're going in a sequential step-by-step way. So take data first, and then moving forward we have those models coming after.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Edward. I'm so glad that he mentioned the issue of urban planning, because he just spun the conversation right in the direction that I needed it to come to. Okay, so we're talking about real life examples now to fix everyday problems in African cities. Of course, you talked about the issue of urban planning. I mean, you made mention of ambulance services and whatnot earlier on, and then he also talked about healthcare services and all. So let's hear your thoughts on that, because I know this is your area of specialty, urban development. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay, just like in biology, where we have anatomy and then we have physiology, how the organs work. Most times, cities are developed without consideration to functioning. How many of you have been to any of the license office lately? NIN, driver's license. You see the process, right? If there was an automated system where from the comfort of your office or your bedroom, without having to take the whole day off, you can make your application, and within the specific days stated, the governments have, again, real-time data to cross-check the information you have provided. You should be able to get your NIN via mail, right? So automation is one area that AI can come in. Then with AI, we can predict certain things like flooding and possible natural disaster, or even speed up environmental impact assessment when it comes to expanding. In Lagos, you see people building houses that, even if you're not a professional, you see that the depth of these houses, the foundation, the quality of the stones are not worth it. Close to the shoreline, and because they want to call it luxury waterfront homes. However, these people don't have access to town planning without going to FCDA or some other urban ministry, where they can't really get what they want, because of corruption. Sometimes these companies have done their homework and they've created quite a distance between the possible clients or citizen and information. So information, when it comes to investments, environmental impact assessment, areas that are livable, areas that should be industrialized, areas that should be for accommodation, AI can help to, fill in these spaces. Then logistics, agricultural technology, food deliveries, moving consignments or resource materials from producers to end users, or from
the marketplace to the consumer.
Marketplace, exactly. So AI can come in all of this. And I feel pained that we all want to be data analysts. If you can sit through a 4 to 6 weeks course to be a data analyst, you can fill in these gaps. The government shouldn't be the one building them. For example, I know somebody by Mr. Priestley Iradia, young guy. He has not really given me the whole explanation, but from everything I've been seeing on his data, on his social medias, he built something for the Justice Department where cases you don't have to go to here, they will not send your case file to here. And he's been training across the 36, the federal government bought into it, and he's been training across the 36 states. He can be in one state for like 12 days, him and his team, they will separate. This one is in this high court, this magistrate's court. Why? Because who would have thought that the justice system would need an automated platform to handle certain cases? But then this is the difference between somebody who can afford a good lawyer, or somebody whose family has given up on them, and somebody who has been in jail for 20 years and nobody has come to look for them. This is the difference. So it's not just about building the city, it's about the functionality of it. Exactly. We can have luxury houses, and then, as in Lagos, the water before you get into your luxury home is up your thigh. Or you can tell your boss, side, give me 1 hour, I want to quickly go and get my driver's license, and you're there for 2 days. Right? Like I said earlier, health, emergency logistics. You don't have to own the ambulances. There are people who have Pathfinder that has been without working, but they can't drive them. Create the app, create the platform, create the connection between healthcare providers like private hospitals. If you can't afford it, if you can't afford to do with the government yet, link a victim who has fallen at home with a possible care provider via your app. Some of us live alone. You can be coming down from your tub and fall, but your phone is just by you, but you can't call for emergency, right? That when these spaces or this lack of functionalities point in the direction of where finance is going to dwell, let me put it like that, if there is a solution. A lot of us don't like boats, we don't like this, because that's one thing that's lacking in that one. Create a system where that falls. I am all for waiting for the government, but I also understand that government is the leaders are 10% governance. We are 90% governance. Right? I saw an invention someone made for, this is city functionality now. He's a Lebanese guy. He made this slab Babambola have been stealing that's causing the flooding, right? He made a version from plastic that even if you drive, I've seen the samples, you drive a big truck through it, it doesn't break. It doesn't clog. Does that make sense? Yes. It's a better alternative to iron, removes waste from the environment, right? We can track pollution through AI. You know, you see abroad, they make an announcement. Everybody in this zone or in this county, these areas are red zone areas during the spring. They have high pollen, whatever. Between that time that the pollen is going to be in the atmosphere and the next season, the government will decide whether to reduce the population of that very plant that's causing it or not. Okay. Or if that plant has has other benefits to the other organisms in that environment and they cannot remove them, they leave them, but they tell people this is going to happen, go and take your shots, wear your mask. Do you understand? But let's say something like this happens in Nigeria right now. You say, the gods are angry, everybody in this village has kata, 50 people, half of them are dead. So AI is a tool that if we harness properly, if we don't fear it, if it's something that we look to say, okay, what can make our lives better with this? How do we make our lives better with this? How do we make Nigeria function with this? And then as an individual, if you ask yourself, what can I do to improve the quality of lives of Nigerians, not for charity, and make a whole lot of money from it? Again, you can even use the AI to prompt to get a version of these things you want to do. So like I keep saying it, lie down on your bed, 3 o'clock at night, put your leg on your wall, prompt your little idea until it becomes something so grand that you can't sleep. And then let it run your life for the next couple of months. And you'll be surprised how much you can make and how much contribution you can make to your country. We all love the idea of OPay and money points simply because, again, you can check, you say your bank does not have network. That is something that customer services to be like, sit down, go to the back. Let me check whether you have network. But now you just open your POS or your app and you can tell if somebody from Polaris Bank or Keystone Bank has network, right? Yes. Convenience. It frees up time for you to do other meaningful things. Absolutely. So I really feel like from the government arm of it, even pollution, waste, we have a whole logistic thing with waste management. Leave the companies, you create the AI part of it and link point A to point B. Jumia, Temu, they don't own product. Uber don't have cars.
Connection to vendors.
It's all artificial intelligence and technology. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Sonia. Honestly, brilliant submission there. And let me just quickly ask, how many of us know about the chat app WeChat? Just by a show of hands. WeChat. Excellent. Bragging rights. The person who invented it went to the school I went to in China. And a round of applause, excuse me. And you know, it's not just a chat app. Like if you're domiciled in China, you realize you can do so much with that application. You can pay your taxes, you can pay for your groceries, you can book your train tickets, you can pay for your bus fare, you can pay for a taxi, you can book movie tickets, and the list goes on and on and on. So this is exactly why we're having these conversations. So we need to bring these solutions down to the African context. So now we've talked about some of these things. Now let's also look at the angle of risks involved and the challenges. What are the?
Because even me, when I want to apply for some things and they're like, put your NIN, I will just first of all leave that tab, go to a new tab and go and do research about you people. I'll copy your link, I put it on ChatGPT and say, give me, based on their terms and conditions, help me understand where I stand. Do you understand? And then I'm like, okay, I know they do. Hello, I'm going to come to your office. Don't worry, I will fill the form online. Why? Because again, I don't want to be sitting on my own, like the previous person said, you're getting alerts, or somebody use your passport or passport page or personal information to commit crime. One. Secondly, trust. We do not trust our government. So it's gonna be a hard thing to push. Hence, I am all for private companies pushing these things in public and private partnership with the government. If somebody comes to my house and says, I'm from the Ministry of Health, okay, it might be difficult to answer you, because all the time Ministry of Health came to my house, when we loved the government, they gave us immunization, they gave us malaria care kits, we liked it. But following all the other squandering and personal ambition coming from the ministry that I've seen on the news, my trust is not as it was it's not the same trust a couple of years ago, right? So there's trust, there is that, and then abuse. I need to be sure that there are backups, there is a fair punishment for somebody who goes to mess up or mess with national security data.
Absolutely.
Somebody who tries to hack it. I mean, open display of punishment, African style. We need to see your face on the media. We need to know who your family is, why you decided to do that kind of thing, right? Because I saw a video once where a kidnapper was arrested and he told the police, make I come outside first. Like the infantry of knowing that he's coming out, he's just going to be in jail for a few days or a few months, right? So once we have a sense of security, which I don't know how well we're going to do that, it works. Then lastly, we are Nigerians. ...
Fill in the missing pieces. Thank you so much, Sonia. Mr. Edward. Okay, great. I have you on the screen then. So I'm coming to you with that same question. All right, great, Mr. Edward. So I'm coming to you with that same question. What are the biggest challenges to using AI for good in Africa? What are the risks that we stand to face? Mr. Edward, can you hear us? Okay. Looks like we're having some sound challenges.
Oh, he's not talking.
Mr. Edward, can you hear us? I can see you blinking, but it doesn't seem like you can hear what we're saying here. Okay, Mr. Paul, are you there? Mr. Paul, are you still with us? I think the challenge is with the sound, so they might not be hearing us, but they might see us. So I'll just leave that to the tech team to work on, and let me come back to my panelists here on stage. All right, Mr. Idris, you're up. Please pass the mic to thank you. Okay, so we're looking at the risks involved in using AI for governance.
So I'll summarize it in 3 points. We have data privacy, trust, and job displacement.
Yeah, I think I think they are still having less of issues.
Back to
I think it's internet this time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Idris, please continue.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said earlier, I will summarize it in 3 points. Data privacy.
They had a power outage. No, that was just now.
Job displacement. So, and this links us back to the theme of this year, sovereign intelligence. Because if we talk about sovereign intelligence, it's not just about localizing technology. It is about building ethical AI that respects our people and values. So you see, we can't simply import that Western data set, as I said earlier, and expect African outcomes. That's not possible. What Africa needs is contextual intelligence. AI models trained in our languages, cultures, and emotional realities. For example, at AMCAN, we believe in AI by Africans, for Africans, with Africa's consent. Our development process prioritizes data privacy, community feedback. So I think this is how AI will mitigate those risks associated with AI by creating opportunities for our people, to empower our people, not to replace, not to use those automation systems to replace them. We can automate systems, but we can't automate humanity.
Absolutely.
So it's left for us to build those AI ethically to empower our people, not to exploit or to displace their jobs. So
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Idris. Honestly, I feel like that's the perfect way, really, to bring this panel to a close. And unfortunately, we lost our panelists who joined us online. Sincere apologies to them. Hello, Mr. Edward, you're back.
I think there was some connection issues, but it's like we're back.
Yes, unfortunately so. Well, we're about rounding off, but I'll just give you 2 minutes to just quickly summarize what you think the risks are involved in using AI in governance.
Well, I think it's been touched upon already in terms of like the biases and the ethics, the inequality, the divide that might be available. Not everyone gets to gain from the upside that comes, the productivity gains that come from, having widespread AI use in our government services or across, communities. Those are the big issues. I think we have to be very cognizant and aware of like how the inequalities would play out, making sure that data is all encompassing and it's not biased. What goes in, the garbage in, garbage out philosophy. And just keeping a bird's eye view. I mean, I'm of the personal opinion, of course, that the knowledge economy gets affected first. But then, the impacts can go broad across, your knowledge, your blue collar work and informal economies as well. But we might go through an inflection of, again, like within the knowledge economy, that displacement of work at the start. But then we would see a rebound in terms of new opportunities. So even I'll bring this quote from the NVIDIA president. He mentioned around how, your blue collar work in terms of your electricians and plumbing. I'm not sure if I'm still there. It looks like I'm not sure if the connection went.
So go on. Just round up in a couple of seconds, please.
They just black out again. So okay, seems they're back or something.
Mr. Edward, can you hear us? Right. Looks like we're off. So we're going to quickly go into the question and answers segment. So please, any questions that you might have or that you might have penned down, we'll just take 1 or 2, please, for a lack of time to go on. If I had my way, I would have kept them here the entire day because there's so much to talk about, honestly, around this issue, AI for social good. But a sincere gratitude to our panelists, honestly, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience on this particular topic. It's been an amazing session, honestly. I've enjoyed listening to each and every one of you so much, and I hope to get your contacts so that we can continue the conversation afterwards. But I'll just also tell you that at this juncture, you can begin to put together any final thoughts that you might have so that we can quickly summarize as soon as we take the 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So please, by a quick show of hands, do we have any questions in the audience? The mic, please.
Thank you. Mine is a comment, not a question, and it's on AI for social good. And it's also to lend a voice to what the panelists have said, that AI for social good, the first thing is about trust. What are the philosophies behind the social good? Is it going to be all encompassing, as in you'll be ubiquitous, everybody will benefit from it? So that is the underlying foundation. Then the next thing will be the data points. Where are the data points? Are the data points a good source for the data, like the issue of taxation that was talked about. So let's talk about for personal taxation, that's straightforward. But for corporate taxation now, it is not as straightforward. So like a company that deals in commodity, for instance, how do you validate or verify if the person says they are moving goods from maybe from south to north or north to south, and the attendant people and area boys that they will meet on the way that will collect money from them on the express, even security personnel too that will do that, and all those kind of stuff that are not documented. So how do they put this in their final profit and loss account and everything, and so that you can get the right taxes from them? So some data points are not available for some of these things, but they need to be captured. So data points are one of the places that will need to be looked at. And data points. Then the other thing is, just as somebody talked about, is identity management. BVN, NIN, TIN, and the rest of it will need to come together on a regulatory platform where it is ensured that the data is consistent across board. The data you have on NIN is consistent with the data you have on BVN, is consistent with the data you have on TIN. So that if you are like address, email, or phone numbers, and the rest, needs to be consistent. So data consistency is needed,
Absolutely.
and then verification, validation are also required. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for that question, sir. I would like to.
I'm sorry, we didn't get his name.
Okay. Getting your name, sir?
Okpe Lawrence.
Okay.
Okpe Lawrence. Angela, can I interject here? I would like to say that is more like a feedback and also question all in one. So what I'd like to say, I would like you to talk to the panelists individually so they can give you proper insights if you still need more, because I would like us to round up this session and move to the last session for today while our energy is still high, because we have someone very important. So we've been talking about sovereign AI, and this last session is really important so we can close this conference with a big bang. So I'd like our panelists to just share their final messages, and then we can take photos, and then we'll move on to the next session.
Okay, great. So let me start with Mr. Idris then.
Okay, my final say is to policymakers. I'll start with this. AI development without regulations is like building bridges without safety standards. We have seen how unregulated trends from misinformation to data misuse can escalate international challenges. Think of how the kidnapping crisis evolved in this country, starting with an isolated incident in the West and now spreading into a nationwide security concern. This is what happens when small issues go unaddressed. And the same could happen with AI if we don't act early and wisely. So here are my 3 appeals to policymakers. Firstly, prioritize AI literacy certification policy. No one should deploy AI or manage AI without understanding the ethics, privacy, and bias risks. Secondly, enforce data sovereignty laws. African data must empower African people. Thirdly, prioritize partnerships among governments, academia, and startups driving AI for social good, especially in sectors like health, education, and security. So thank you so much. That's my.
All right. Just in a sentence or two, let's be open to the change that's coming. Let's be advocates for the change. Especially because of the quality of people here aligned with this topic, for those of us who are innovators, let compassion drive our reason behind our innovations. And I wish everybody the best.
Thank you so much. I'm just trying to confirm if we have our panelists online so they can also give their final thoughts. 30 seconds, please, each of you. Please, thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, and a wonderful talk from everyone. So I do think policy, education, and I think some internal governance issues like corruption, they play a very key role here. An example is a final touch to this is the government that will build to use, let's say, $1 billion to build an app, but they need more money to secure it for national security. So the money to secure it, if it's been embezzled, then the system application will be on the phone, not on the system, but it's exposed to everyone around the world, then there will be national crisis. So when corruption and internal government crises are solved, it helps a long way in propagating this legacy into the local applications for social change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Mr. Edward, you're up. Unfortunately, we don't have Mr. Edward. Honestly, sincere apologies to those of you who joined in online. The network gods have been very unkind to us, but honestly, once again, thank you so much, Mr. Idris, Ms. Sonia, Mr. Edward, Mr. Paul, for engaging on this conversation on AI for social good. From smart governance to sustainable cities, I believe we've done justice to talking about how transformative for us Africa can be on the playing board when we talk about revolutionizing some of our sectors on the African continent. Now, AI, we must ensure that AI serves all Africans, not just a privileged few, and of course address the inequalities while respecting our diverse contexts. The future of Africa's social good lies in our hands, so let's make it a reality together. I'm Angela Agbegi, and I've been your humble moderator.
Angela. Thanks, Angela. Before we go, let's have some photos taken. Yeah, I'll have to try. Okay. Hello, Africa. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Our energy is still up. If your energy is still up, let me see your hands. Energy up, energy up, energy up. All right, great, great. We have less than 30 minutes, 45 minutes to bring today to a close. But before we go, I'd like us to have this one very insightful chat. It's a fireside chat where we're going to be talking about AI, Africa's voice in the global AI order. Okay, I'm going to be speaking with someone very important. But before I start, I'd like to just say a few things here. It's a joy to see so many brilliant minds, builders, and dreamers gathered here for today's conversation. Sovereign Intelligence, Africa's voice in the global AI order, isn't just another tech chat. It's about ownership, it's about voice, it's about identity. Because let's face it, most of the rules about artificial intelligence are being written from far away from here. But can a system truly be called intelligent if it doesn't understand the rhythm of Lagos traffic, the wisdom of an African grandmother, or the innovation that happens in our local markets? If AI doesn't understand when NEPA takes light, can it really call itself smart? Today, we are here to talk about more than just algorithms. We are here to talk about agency. Africa is not consuming the future, we are building it. And the question before us is simple. How do we make sure that the world will listen when Africa speaks? And joining me for this conversation is someone who has spent years building technology, innovation, and business, Mr. Bosun Ayeni, the Managing Director and CEO of Compumetric Solution. He's passionate about technology. Can we see you? Can we have you around your hands together, please? He's passionate about technology, empowering economies and creating jobs, and most importantly, ensuring Africa leads, not just lags behind. You're welcome, sir. So I would like to stand here if that's okay. Oh, great. No, you can sit there. Okay, great. Okay. So let's pay attention. It's going to be our last session so that we can have our hearts full, our minds bubbling with questions, and let's see how this goes. So, sir, first of all, I'd like to talk about ownership and power. You know, when we say sovereign intelligence, we've heard this word sovereign a lot. We've heard the word intelligence. I know a lot of us know what intelligence is. But some of us, I know yesterday, might be wondering what is this sovereign thing we're talking about. So sovereign intelligence, we're talking about who owns the brain of the future. How do you think Africa can move from being a data source to being a data authority? Should I say that? Take that again? Okay, great. How do you think Africa can move from being a data source to being a data authority?
All right, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
You're welcome, sir.
And it's also been a pleasure listening to all the great minds that spoke earlier. So I'll pivot a bit because of the comment from the last session where someone was saying he wasn't hearing enough about sovereignty. So asking how Africa would move from a data source to being a data destination or data provider, I would say you are asking how do we move from being a data consumer or infrastructure or services consumer or to being data sovereign. So a number of the building blocks have been provided in the sessions from yesterday. The first thing to say, if I what comes to mind, I like to take things a bit one level simpler. When you think about sovereignty, what comes to your mind when you think about sovereignty? You think about a self-governing entity, an entity that can create his own rules, manage his own rules, do his own thing. I think a lot of the Gen Z and the digital natives can relate with that. They're almost born sovereign. They do things their way, when they want it, how they want it. So the question is, can a country or can a continent, especially Africa, achieve that status? We all know today, given that in many ways, our hands and legs are tied as Africans. So how do we then transition to being a data sovereign entity or continent? A number of the building blocks, like I said, have been identified earlier. So first is the data privacy enabling laws, awareness that is being done. So that is a foundation to a foundation. So the foundational layer is about understanding data and guaranteeing data sovereignty. And when people are aware, government is aware, citizens are aware, data subjects are aware, and their rights are respected, that's the good first step. But achieving data sovereignty is more than data privacy. So the first thing, one of the points that was mentioned yesterday is how do we ensure that African data stay in Africa? When you say data is sovereign, it means that the country decides where the data, how its data is generated, where it is stored, how it is managed, how it is processed, and then linking it back to intelligence, how the intelligence is derived and governed. So the first question for us as Africans is, where do our data stay? And how do we ensure that our data resides in Africa? You would all realize, or if you follow the news, one of my favorite persons to follow these days is Donald Trump. He has told the world how in his second coming, he has attracted investment of almost $8 trillion. And in fact, Apple, just Apple alone, announced that they are investing $500 billion in the US, and a consortium of a few tech companies with SoftBank and Oracle and all of that announced an investment of $500 billion in AI infrastructure. Let's bring it home. Dangote is the richest African. He's worth $30 billion. His entire worth is $30 billion. So if a company says they are investing $500 billion in AI infrastructure. They're not saying other things, just AI infrastructure. That gives a sense of what we are up against. When we say we want data sovereignty, Africa today, we are contributing 1% of the global data center capacity in the world. Our population is 70% of global population. The US today has 40 times the capacity of the whole of Africa, not Nigeria, the whole of Africa in data center capacity. And look at what they are investing. So the question we should ask is, are we ready? Is this a wish list or a reality? Do we really even understand the scale of what we are saying? Do we have the resources to do it? Of course, we don't need to do what they have done. You would also realize that when ChatGPT, especially GPT-4, was launched, I mean, they set the internet on fire, right? And they later came out to say they spent about $100 million just to achieve that leap to GPT-4. And then DeepSeek did their magic from China, and they said it was just about below $10 million. So just far less than 7-8% of what it has cost to do ChatGPT. So that's very good news for Africa. So it means that if we have certain other things, we can lower the cost of catching up. But what are those other things, and do we have them? Do we have the right governance structure? Is the government and the governance of infrastructure and data focusing on the right things? Do we have the right level of skills and in the right quantity? I see a lot of training and capacity building around AI, but are we building the right skill set? Sufficient engineers that can focus on algorithm sovereignty and so on. So in summary, to transition from where Africa, the last panel emphasized that a lot of the data being used is from Africa. Yeah, we are 70% of global population, and we are one of those that use these tools for fun a lot. So we generate a lot of data. Perhaps not for training purposes, but we generate a lot of data that the system continue to use to fine-tune its use, and especially context to respond to African requests. But then the question is, how do we transition? So data, infrastructure, governance, and then intelligence sovereignty, particularly infrastructure, people, and governance. So I'd like to stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you were talking, you were pivoting and answering the next set of questions I had, because I was just going to ask when he said there are a few other things, and I just typed in here, what are those few other things? And then he went on to say data centers, so infrastructure, the data, the people, and the governance.
Okay, yeah. So I can. It's a good thing that you have asked. When you look at sovereignty, especially with the theme having intelligence sovereignty, I like relational description. As human beings, we are all mostly, not everybody, but majority of human beings have intelligence sovereignty as a human being. What does that mean? If you see someone and you ask, are you intelligent? Nobody decides for you how to apply your brain, how to use your intelligence, what to learn, what not to learn. Information comes your way every day, and you apply your intelligence to what you choose, right? Now, for a continent, the question is, how do you get to that point of intelligence sovereignty? There are 4 key components. First, data sovereignty, which is the first question you ask. So if we're able to achieve data sovereignty, what are the other building blocks? What are the other sovereignty we need to have? We need to be able to have governance sovereignty. We need to be able to have sovereignty over our models and building blocks. So one is to have data, one is the governance, one is the core algorithm and models itself. So, and that's where a lot of the argument around context, language, if you give an AI Hausa to interpret, will it be able to do that? Yes, it's true. There are about 3,000 tribes in Africa, different languages. I mean, a lot of them, economic value is not significant. So the rest of the world is not going to have, I mean, compared with the rest of the world, the rest of the world is not going to have the time or the focus to invest their own money into developing context for those African tribes, unless we prioritize that. So those are things we need to do, and we need to do them by ourselves. So train the right people, focus on the right model, govern right. Today, when we talk about governance sovereignty around AI, yes, the building blocks are being put in there. AI strategy document, national AI centers across the continent. But as a continent, do we have the agreed set of rules, ethics, governance framework that AI systems or AI engineers that are delivering the models would use? We don't. And we don't even today have a body that would achieve that. The African Union is doing a lot of work, making a lot of pronouncements around AI declaration this year in Rwanda. And then in 2024, they came up with an AI framework and blueprint. But the African Union cannot do any legislation for Africa. So they are all advisory. And this advice have to be implemented on country level. So we have quite a bit to do in terms of accelerating this journey. You know, one of the things I found interesting in the African Union document, for example, and the declaration, is that some of these issues will be implemented in 2028. The declaration is a bit more aggressive, saying implementation will start in 2026, going to 2028. But 2028, now that we're in 2025, from an AI standpoint, it's almost 3 decades away, right? But by the time we're in 2028, which is 3 years' time, most of the things that AI is giving to us today will probably be obsolete. The core principles will be there, but there will be so much changes that if we want to wait till 2028 before we start to do meaningful implementation from a government perspective, it's really going to be tough. And on a final note on this, just before you leave, I'd like to stress this point that for Africa, I am of the view that Africa cannot get it right without a government-led participation. I know that people will say, oh no, it should be private sector-led. No. In Africa, to catch up based on the gap we have, government has to be in front and be in front in the right direction. Now, people would ask, oh, show me somewhere in the world where government is in front and they are getting it right. China. Government is the one deciding everything that is happening, the pace at which it's happening, the direction that things are going. Government is the one, and they are the only one, the only part of the world that have been able to demonstrate catch-up with the West.
Correct. Okay. Wow. So guys, he has basically, what I saw, he was answering like questions I had next. He had answered them 2-3 steps ahead. So that's really great. Okay, so I noted something here very vital: government-led participation. One of the speakers said he should have wished we had more policymakers and government people in the room, but I'm sure this message is going far and wide, and we need to let the government know, for us to be actively participating in this AI race, we need their full support. Earlier, I and Mr. Bosun, we have talked about what are the real challenges. We have challenges in the power sector where we need power to basically power all this AI thing you're hearing. Everything dwells on power, because for you to process and compute all that algorithm, all those models, you need some things called GPUs. CPUs don't run so much power, but those GPUs, they are energy consuming. And we don't have that in Nigeria. We have unlimited power, where we don't have to worry our lives going to go off, then we are still going to be struggling with this foundational issue of how do we grow our sovereignty. All right, so just give us a final conclusion before we round up this session.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, you talked about GPU, and of course, GPU also speak to the core of data center and processing and all of that. You know, I've been thinking, it's not a thought I have clearly worked out in my head, but one of the things I think government needs to do, for example, would be accelerate data center rollout.
Great.
And that's where GPUs,
Great.
hardware,
Great.
infrastructure,
Great.
data
Great.
will sit, and all the models would run.
Great.
You know.
Great.
Now, how can government make that happen? Today, we need to go beyond wish list in Africa. And when government take the lead, they focus so much on policy. We are not talking about frameworks and policies now. We are talking about a workable implementation model that would work in Africa. I would quote, without putting the context, the current Honorable Minister of Digital Economy, and he said in one of the forum just a couple of months ago that, the ministry have tried, and indeed they have, so many things to solve so many problems, but some of our problems in Africa are so difficult to solve that they are stubborn problems. I agree with him that some of those problems are entrenched, but those problems are entrenched because we are using the wrong implementation model. If we use the right model with the right resources and position it correctly, government can make changes and wonders happen. Government control a lot of the narrative, the resources. You can see what Nigerian government is doing with tax reforms and the progress they are making. If the president or the government focus on a transformative technology reform in a similar manner that truly would position Nigeria and by inference Africa to getting some of these things done.
Yeah.
So, for example, declare several territories for data center infrastructural investment. And those territories, yes, they are in Nigerian territorial land, give guarantees, global guarantees. I know free trade zone would come to mind, but we need to do better than free trade zone. Those locations have to have guarantees that a government tomorrow, in fact, it's almost as if seeding it out permanently for a long time, so that they are no longer considered as part of the territorial part of that country, so that foreigners would then see, okay, so if I invest in this place, I can have the same global rules that apply in this location, and Nigerian government will not come and take it away, just because it is part of Nigerian territory. We need to come up with something close to that as much as possible that doesn't completely give away our sovereignty in order to accelerate infrastructure rollout. If we don't fix the infrastructure, believe me, we would still have to rely on the foreign entities to provide that critical component, and we would only be taking advantage of the super value that sits on top. And with what the still ongoing, trade wars has demonstrated, that at the right time, with the right incentives, can still be used against countries and threaten the sovereignties of countries in future. Thank you.
Please, I'd like us to give him a round of applause. Please, a very, very concrete round of applause. So that basically what he has just done. He has taken everything that I've been saying since yesterday, today, and has put it together and has told us. For me, what I hear clearly, I don't know about you, I hear until our infrastructural development is on the rise, we would still keep on talking about these foundational issues. All right, guys, one more round of applause for him while we take some photos. If we have any questions, I would like you to just note it down, and then I'll respond to you on the social platforms. Okay, a gentle reminder about the two books by Dr. Evans. If you can go to the back, you can get them. But before we go real quick, all through since the beginning of the conference, I've been taking notes, and there's something I noted down as a closing reflection for us to all go home with. I'll start with saying Africa's future in artificial intelligence isn't really about us catching up anymore. It's about catching on to our own power as Africans. Sovereign intelligence means building technology that reflects exactly who we are, our voices, our value, our systems, our vision. Because the real question isn't about, can Africa build AI? Really, that's not the question. The question is, can AI totally understand Africa? When we own our own data, our code, our stories, we no longer ask for inclusion, but we define the conversation. Thank you, and let's keep pushing for an Africa that leads with intelligence, sovereign, smart, and an Africa that is unstoppable. Thank you for coming to this conference. I wish you all well as you go home. So I'd like us to have a final closing remark from our chairman, Digital Africa. Sir, please, I'd like you to just send us home the right way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I thank you all for your staying power. You know, as they say, many are called, but a few are chosen. For you that have decided to stay, to come, and then to stay this long, thank you very much. And I hope we spoke to you. I hope you learned a lot, especially the young ones, you know, amongst us here today. I hope we learned a lot, you know, from all this. But then again, you see, a lot of times me, lately, well, for a long time, when I think about the problems of Africa, I tend to believe that, oh my God, this thing, we've left it too late. The height we have to reach, you know, in order to be able to catch up is just too high and unbelievable. And therefore, I get to sometimes feel that it's not achievable. But then sometimes again, when I come to this kind of events, and I see especially the youths of Africa, the kind of questions you were asking shows that you really want us, you know, to really reduce the gap between us and the rest of the world. Shows that you've already begun to understand a lot of what we're talking about. Shows that a lot of you have also started doing things, even in this space. And this, to me, is heart, you know, warming. Now, I totally agree with, you know, Bosu. The problem, you know, for us to really catch up, and believe you me, it is doable. And there's no way we can do so without our governments in Africa at the individual country levels and also at the AU level playing a major role for that to really, you know, happen. We've seen it, as Bosun pointed out, in what happened in China and what happened in Singapore, what happened in South Korea, even though in the case of South Korea, it was really the chaebols, some group of companies, but those group of companies were created by the government intentionally. And that was how it also, you know, happened there. If we want to, here in Africa, we can change the situation almost overnight. Our people are ready. From the level of participation, you know, here, and from much of what we see, even outside of this place, you can see that our people are ready to create the miracle, even here in Africa.
And we owe it to ourselves and to our generations unborn for us to do this. As you know, Bosu also pointed out, if our government decides to pay attention and focus on any area, let's say, infrastructure, it is going to change overnight. If we really, truly want development, because often I believe that we are not paying attention to development. We're just, getting along with whatever we do, every day, not mindful of where we are as Africa vis-a-vis other parts of the world. But to me, we need to be mindful of the gap between us and the rest of the world. We started, as I pointed out, yesterday, Africa started it all. It was here that humanity was born. It was here that most of the innovations, the earliest innovations, were carried out. And our ancient Africans didn't disappoint us, as I pointed out yesterday. If you go to much of what they did in different parts of Africa, ancient Africa, you know that we did so much. So why should we, modern Africans, disappoint the future generation of Africans? If somebody is given the role of a leader, that person should really, know that it's a great responsibility we are given to that person so that the person can assist us for us to leapfrog this development. It is doable, and we must, do it. Earlier today, somebody spoke in a manner that touched me. The gentleman sat somewhere there, and he was saying something about the nature of the gap between us and the rest of the world. And the fact that, bottom line, all we are doing is just imitating what, others are doing without really taking the bull by, the horn. To an extent, he's right. I pointed out that even, is something that we've been doing for a long time now, since, let's say, the 60s. To the point that somebody wrote a book. I talked about him yesterday. His name is V.S. Naipaul, a Nobel laureate from Trinidad and Tobago. He wrote a book called The Mimic Man, which describes us as, although he wasn't talking only about Africa, he was talking about probably the whole third world, the whole of the West Indies, and of course, of Africa. Bottom line, all we are good at is just imitation. We are not authentic. We don't do things, take things, for us to be leaders, to catapult the world even to newer, phases of existence. We are comfortable. We are resigned to just staying there and mimicking what some